Now, protocol, procedure. Why? Because he was not signing off on proposals that you're supposed to be actually doing to take responsibility of your government's initiatives and policies. So the files would go to the LG, but Kejriwal's signature was not on those policy initiatives. Those signatures belong to deputy undersecretaries or deputy secretaries and other bureaucrats, but not Mr. Kejriwal. The Lieutenant Governor feels that this is a major breach. And now, of course, as we go into India Up Front, we are breaking this news story that the ED has stepped in and taken cognizance of the CBI FIR, and on the basis of that has filed a money laundering case. Viewers, expect more fireworks. We'll be returning to this story at 8:30 on India Up Front in just a short while, because we are moving to another very big development. This one coming out of Hyderabad, out of Telangana. Viewers, let me give you a perspective. Under Indian law, communal hate speech is punishable under sections 153. Under this section, a convict can end up serving a maximum jail term of 6 months for wantonly giving provocation with the intention to cause a riot. Then there is section 153A of the IPC, Indian Penal Code, which relates to promoting enmity between groups. A maximum punishment under this law is about 5 years in jail. Section 295A is slapped when someone is adjudged to have deliberately offended religious sentiments. Crime under this act is punishable for up to 3 years in jail. Section 505 of the IPC, which is incitement to commit an offence, attracts a maximum jail term of 3 years. Last but not least is section 506, or criminal intimidation. This section of the IPC attracts a maximum term of 7 years in jail. Most communal offenders are booked under some or all of these laws. As I told you, under these 5 laws, the maximum punishment is 7 years in jail. There is no provision for beheadings. There is no provision for a life term. Viewers, now look at this 3-window graph, the visuals that we have put together for you. Have a look at this. Viewers, when bigots like BJP MLA T. Raja sing, and you can see him on the left of your screens, he's being circled, he's coming out of a lockup, a police lockup. He's been just given bail about 45 minutes ago. When BJP MLAs like him insult minority religious sentiments, they can be locked away for a maximum of 7 years under the 5 laws or codes of the IPC that I've just told you about. And in my book, they should be. Unfortunately, viewers, some in our society ignore the laws. In fact, they call upon others to take the law into their own hands and impose a heavier cost, not prescribed under the Constitution. And that's what you're seeing in the middle of your screens, viewers. Not just today, but also, viewers, last night, around midnight. Let's also bring out those visuals. The ones that we saw late last night from Hyderabad. There you can see it. Scores belonging to the minority community called for the beheading of the hate-mongering BJP MLA T. Raja Singh for making a YouTube video that was deemed to insult the Prophet. Of course, viewers, Mr. Raja should go to jail, should be booked. He should be tried under Indian laws. These groups, however, including sympathizers of the AIMIM that is led by Asaduddin Owaisi, chanted "Sartan se juda, gustake Rasool ki ek hi saza, sartan se juda, sartan se juda," as if we were in Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. Viewers, we are not living in an Islamist state where Islamist laws apply. We go by the Constitution. If Mr. Raja, and there is very little doubt that he is being pejorative towards the Prophet. If he is indeed proclaimed guilty by the courts, let him serve the 5, 6, 7 years that he is adjudged guilty and sentenced to. But viewers, in our nation, where secularism is woven into our constitution, you can't have these Islamic decrees. First, listen in to how this crowd was whipping up this Sartan Se Juda fury, which, viewers, has had serious consequences when it came to Nupur Sharma. Right after anyone who spoke in support of Nupur Sharma was actually beheaded. There were 2 cases, viewers, and several others were attacked, knifed in public. First, listen in. Yes, you want justice, viewers. Everyone wants justice, but justice under Indian laws, not under some Islamic edicts pronounced by some clerics who don't have an idea of what it means to live under the Indian Constitution. This kind of justice you might have in Saudi Arabia, not under the Indian Constitution. But viewers, strangely, none of these individuals you are seeing inciting believers to behead Raja have been arrested by the Telangana police. Let alone arrest, to my knowledge, no one has even been booked. Not one case has been filed against them. Why? Should action against hate mongers be selective? Clearly not, viewers. For a selective crackdown will not close the gap between communities, but breed more resentment. It also creates the impression that the administration is appeasing one section of the public above and beyond others. Imagine if a bunch of Hindu activists took to the streets after what goes on in Kashmir or in other parts of this country and said, we are going to now hang these people who have done so, hand them over to us. Well, Times Now asked AIMIM chief Asaduddin Owaisi whether he was going to follow the BJP's example and act against those within his own party's ranks who have been found advocating beheadings. AIMIM MP Imtiaz Jalil, in particular, called for public hanging of Nupur Sharma. But watch how Owaisi dodges and then runs away. This is the interview clip from earlier today.
Sir, an open call was given to hang Nupur Sharma.
Thank you, madam.
In the middle of a large crowd gathered. Sir, before I let you go, we need to play out that sound bite. If you can just respond to this, because you just asked Times Now for proof.
You can do it, but I have to go to the channel.
Let us show you what Imtiaz Jalil has said. One answer, and then you can go. Small request, sir. Mr. Owaisi, can you hear me? Mr. Owaisi, we're playing out that reaction of Imtiaz Jalil. You just put out that question to Times Now. You said that's not what he said, but we have it. Sir, we have the proof with us, and I want a response from you.
He didn't respond to us, viewers, though he did say that he doesn't approve of these slogans. So then why not begin by taking action against those associated with your own party, like this individual on your screens who is said to be a member of the AIMIM? Of course, this is not the first instance of a selective crackdown on hate. While today Raja Singh is arrested and suspended from the Bharatiya Janata Party, Owaisi's Neta Mir Sadar Ali, who chanted Sartan se Juda, walks free. While Nupur Sharma, after insulting the Prophet, faced multiple FIRs and then suspended from the BJP, the Supreme Court finally, after giving a lecture, decided to give a release and relief. Imtiaz Jalil, Member of Parliament of the AIMIM, went unpunished for a call to hang Nupur publicly. Naveen Jindal was expelled from the Bharatiya Janata Party and then booked for insulting the Prophet, but Samajwadi Party MP Shafiqur Rahman Bark got away for justifying the call to behead. He said this is action-reaction. There are several such examples, and I want to open this up and I want to bring in straight. First off, Syed Abdahu Kashaf, who is a political strategist, also an influencer. And I want to show the pictures of Mr. Kashaf among those who were chanting Sartan se Juda from last evening. There you see him, viewers, calling upon the crowd. So Mr. Kashaf, let me begin by asking you, it's a straightforward question. You were seen chanting Sartan se Juda. Why shouldn't a case of promoting violence be slapped against you, Mr. Kashaf?
Sir, because after my statement, no one was hurt. After my statement, no public or private property was damaged. No law and order situation has come. Nothing wrong has happened. So I don't think anything has happened like what happened in Delhi after देश के गद्दारों को गोली मारो सालों को was said.
Mr. Kashaf, do you believe that Sartan se Juda is the punishment that should be handed out to Mr. Raja?
Sir, no doubt that is the only punishment which should be given to the person who disrespects Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But as we are in India, we are having our constitution. We did a democratic protest. We requested the Hyderabad City Police to arrest him and send him to the judicial custody. But it was very unfortunate to know that instead of all this protest and all, a few minutes back, he was granted a bail from the Nampally court. And it was very shocking that Hyderabad City Police tried a lot, and after giving such a communal speech, such a hateful speech, this I don't even want to call him a man or XYZ, how he was granted bail, that is a very big question in the judiciary.
So, Mr. Kashaf, neither do you believe in the Indian IPC, which gives a maximum sentence of 7 years to these individuals, saying that no, these people should be beheaded, but you also now don't believe in the judiciary and the application of the judiciary's mind. So let me ask you once again, are you living in an Islamic state like Pakistan or Afghanistan or Saudi Arabia, where the writ of clerics prevails, and not a secular democracy like India, where constitution is supreme, where there are no blasphemy laws, at least widespread blasphemy laws? Unfortunately, there are some who are trying to get some passed in different parts of this country. But Mr. Kashaf, do you really think you live in Saudi Arabia or Pakistan or Afghanistan or ISIS-controlled parts of Syria? I want to ask you this.
Sir, when you're talking about IPC and other things, I have been practicing democracy from a very long time. I've been practicing civil rights from a very long time.
So, taking the law into your own hands, Kashaf bhai, taking the law into your own hands is democratic.
Sir, we didn't take law in our hands.
Sir, you're inciting people to do so.
Much.
I'll read out to you.
We only protested.
Okay, so let me tell you.
It was a democratic protest. No case was registered against us.
Let me tell you.
It was
Section
a peaceful
505.
protest. It was a democratic protest.
Okay, so Kashyap Saab, let me tell you about some of your democratically constituted laws in this country. Section 505 of the IPC, which states incitement to commit an offence attracts a maximum jail term of 3 years. What you were doing was inciting other people to at some stage behead Mr. Raja. Tomorrow if someone goes and beheads him, it would be because of your call. Now, this is a criminal offence. Then there is something called 506 or criminal intimidation. When you threaten someone with murder, in this case beheading, you could end up in jail for 7 years. Kashyap Saab, मैं आपको laws बता रहा हूं भारत के. तो अब आप मुझे बताइए, how is it, sir, that you are saying that you are not guilty of anything except for exercising your democratic right to protest? This is not a democratic right, sir. Saying that let's go out and kill somebody is not democratic. And you have no compunctions. So Kashyap Saab, this is a criminal offense and you are admitting to it. You are saying there is no problem. Abhi to koi mara nahi.
Sir, I wanted to say that our country has seen what has done with Nupur Sharma, what she said, and what other hate mongers are being telling. Law is not taking its course.
Okay, so let me ask you.
At some point,
Kashyap Saab, let me ask you. You say you have no faith in the judiciary.
The police.
Let me then ask you. Kashyap Saab, you say you have no faith in the judiciary. Judiciary ne kya kar diya? You say it's a very strange decision today to give bail to Raja. It raises many questions. So let me ask you, will you say the same about the judiciary that acquitted Akbaruddin Owaisi for his alleged hate speech from 2012?
Sir, I am not a very big person to understand. I have not learned more than you. But in very basic thing, I'll say that he was sent to jail for more than 40 days, and he was having
so hang on.
Trial has already made him
insulting
guilty in
your
that.
Your faith, a person should be beheaded for insulting. One second, this is interesting. For insulting Hindus, it's okay to be in jail for 40 days and then acquitted. ये कैसा law है, sir?
Sir,
क्या यहाँ पर आपके rights कोई special rights हैं?
40 दिन तो रखिए जेल में.
नहीं तो मैं आपसे ये कह रहा हूँ कि अच्छा कश्यप साहब, let me tell you, if you were living in a country where politics was not the main driving force, and in a state where politics did not determine who should be booked and who should not be booked, today you would be in jail, Kashyap Saab. Ignorance is no defense under the law. You can't say मैं आपके जितना पढ़ा लिखा नहीं हूँ और इसीलिए मैं कुछ भी कर सकता हूँ, कुछ भी कह सकता हूँ. Sorry sir, ignorance is no defense under the law. So Mr. Kashyap, if the TRS had any, if the TRS had any idea about upholding laws equally, they would ask their police, the Telangana police, to immediately book you because you are inciting violence. So let me ask Mr. Reddy, 2 minute dijiye mujhe, let me ask Mr. Reddy. Mr. Reddy, will you condemn the Sartan se juda slogans? Yes or no, sir?
Definitely.
Why?
Any person.
Why? 1 minute. Let's go step by step. Why should you condemn it? Why?
Any individual or any party or any person representing any system, if their talk disturb the peace, disturb the communal harmony, definitely TRS party and our government is not going to tolerate.
Okay. So then let me ask you, Mr. Reddy, if you believe that these kind of Sartan Se Juda slogans incite violence, then why hasn't the Hyderabad police acted against Kashaf and others? Why have we still not got a case registered against Kashaf, who is admitting कि मैंने किया, मैंने incite किया, and the others around him? अब तो हो गए sir almost 24 hours. So are you telling me, sir, that a crime which is visibly committed in the public eye, complete glance, captured on camera, on video, and let me play it out again for you, maybe you haven't heard it. So Nizam bhai, let's play it out again. Gustake Rasool ki ek hi saza. This is what was chanted not once, 2 times. I will play out this sequence, Mr. Reddy, and you tell me why is it that the Telangana Hyderabad police has not booked Kashaf and the AIMIM leaders who are chanting this. I'll come to you. First you listen. Now viewers, what did you see on your screens? These Sartan Se Judas slogans were being chanted by AIMIM leaders. Where? Right outside Habib Nagar police station. The police station is right behind. You can see the board of the police station. But in Hyderabad, the TRS leader says, if such a crime has taken place, then we will act. Definitely we should act. Habib Nagar police station, police are looking. Maybe they have got inspired by Gandhiji. They have put their hands on their ears. Maybe they've also put their hands on their eyes, viewers. Because neither can they see and neither could they hear. Now, let me tell you that the original offender here, MLA Raja, he has been booked. Very good. Why not? If he is deemed to have upset any community, he should be. But I have not understood from Mr. Reddy, when an open incitement to violence is happening, Mr. Reddy, outside a police station, what is the Habib Nagar police waiting for? An order from you? Political clearance?
Rahul.
Are they under pressure not to act? Please explain. Reddy sir.
Rahul, our government, TRS government, will not work under anybody's pressure.
Okay.
If you look at the last 8 years of Telangana rule,
Yes, sir.
KCR, our Honorable Chief Minister, unlike the past governments, or unlike some other areas in the country,
Yes.
no communal rights,
Okay.
there was no disturbance amongst the religions or any sections.
Right.
If some people, some individual wants to disturb the peace
Right.
and harmony in our city and spoil the brand Hyderabad,
Yes.
definitely government is not going to keep quiet.
Okay.
It is not TV debate.
So you have not kept quiet when it came to Mr. Raja, and rightly so. But what about these people, MIM leaders, outside Habib Nagar police station?
No, listen. The government will not have any partisan approach towards anybody.
Okay.
And we don't have any reason to act under
So
pressure.
are you saying that the Hyderabad police of Habibnagar are so sloppy, so incompetent,
Why should you think?
so incompetent that they can't file a case?
No, you are trying to interpret in a different manner.
I am not interpreting, sir. I am asking you. Is the police, then you should be condemning the police.
I listen to you patiently. Let me tell you. See, it is our responsibility. It is government's responsibility. At the same time, the law and order enforcement agency's responsibility to maintain the law and order first. They automatically, whoever commits any kind of offence which is suitable to be booked under Indian IPC, definitely the police is going to act. So we don't have any pressure. We will not have to.
So, Mr. Reddy,
there are
what
many
explains?
instances.
Fair enough. You have said this. You've repeated yourself 3 times, and I have heard you.
No.
So let me ask you.
That's what the intention is all about.
No, so let me ask you, sir. See, don't blame the media. I'm only doing my job and asking you the questions.
I'm not trying to blame the.
Yeah, so I'm asking you, what explains the 24-hour delay in this particular case, about a 7-hour delay, when these second group of slogans are being chanted outside the Habibnagar police station by AIMIM leaders? The person on your screens is an AIMIM leader. What explains it? Either your police is partisan, or it is negligent, or it is absolutely inefficient, or it is under some pressure, maybe AIMM pressure, I don't know, to do this.
I don't know. Rahul, you are trying to draw a different kind of interpretation or a conclusion,
okay,
which I just cannot accept like that.
Okay.
What I'm trying to tell you, again, we are a state believe in Ganga Jamna Tehzeeb.
Right.
Here we are not going to any kind of such disharmony or communal violence to take place. Okay, so our responsibility is maintain peace. At the same time, we as a state which observe proper law and order, our law and order enforcement agencies are at liberty.
So tell me, Mr. Reddy, should the AIMIM leader be arrested? Should Mr. Kashaf be arrested? Yes or no? And what are you going to do to ensure that in the next few hours, these people will be arrested?
Rahul, it is not the question of Kashaf or any individual, Raja Singh, XYZ. We are not going to go by individuals. We go by the system. If anybody tries to disturb the harmony,
yeah, but the system is clearly not working. So therefore, I'm asking you, Mr. Reddy.
Who said? How can you
because you've only booked one person.
How can you conclude?
You booked very rightly so the BJP MLA, but you have not booked anyone else. So why is the system not responding?
The police of Hyderabad.
Yeah.
The police of Hyderabad will act impartially, and we will see to that the law and order is properly maintained.
So can I expect? So I'm asking you a simple question, Mr. Reddy.
Violence, we are not going to tolerate.
I appreciate this, and this is as straight as anyone can get. So therefore, I'm asking you, can we expect Mr. Kashaf to be arrested? Can we expect the MIM netas that you're seeing on your screens calling for the beheading?
I wanted to tell you.
Okay.
I am not the station house officer or an ACP or a DCP of the area.
So viewers,
I am a representative of the political party.
Okay, so let me ask you then.
I am telling you very clearly the viewpoint of the government.
Okay, so let me ask you.
It's not about individuals.
Okay, so if it's not about individuals,
it will work without a partisan approach.
If it's not about individuals, sir, then I'm coming back to my central question. I'm sorry I'm asking you this because I'm not getting clear responses. So please forgive me for asking. I'm asking you, sir, if it's not about individuals and it's about the system, can you explain why the system has not acted against this mob of people led by Mr. Kashaf and AIMIM councillors and other netas? Just simply tell me.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. The police will definitely take the necessary action.
But why hasn't it acted with the same alacrity with which it acted against Mr. Raja? Can I understand this? Why the different standards, different timelines?
No, I and you or a panel in the TV debate cannot decide the timelines.
Oh, we don't decide the timelines.
I am not. See,
right.
This is technical. It is up to the police.
It's a technical thing.
For judiciary to take.
Okay.
So we are unnecessarily trying.
So viewers, please get this right.
Create a feeling
if T. Raja, if Mr. Raja, okay. So let's just listen to this and let me break it down without any prejudice, Mr. Reddy. What he's saying is that the police. And I want to bring in Ratan Sharda, I want to bring in Mohandas Pai, and I want to bring in our political analysts also. Mr. Abhijit Iyer Mitra. Let's listen to them. And then I will bring in the Rashtriya Ulema Council's Mr. Rashidi. First, Mr. Ratan Sharda. Mr. Reddy has made some remarks. Mr. Kashyap has made remarks. What are your views?
Rahul, first of all, must compliment you that you got Kashyap bleating like a sheep while he was shouting like a, like a wolf on the streets. And that is how these people are exposed. The TRS people who have avoided panel since morning, now they have come on your show. It is not a question of arresting. First of all, the question is the mischief they started by calling Munawwar, who was not called anywhere in India for his comic shows after his ridicule of Hindu gods and goddesses became public. He was specially called. In December, Mr. KCR said, we respect difference of opinion. They are welcome. Both Kumal Kamra and this fellow are welcome to perform in Hyderabad, in Telangana, anywhere. So this is their sign of secularism, that Munawwar, who has abused Hindu gods, expresses his freedom of opinion. He will be allowed to do whatever he wants to do with police protection of 1,000 people, with D. Raja arrested. But D. Raja will be arrested for doing the same, giving back the same service to what his own gods are put. And in no way defending Raja, I think this was not required. But what did TRS do? They are the root of the mischief. So today, by saying there is one gentleman called Rashid Khan, Congress MLA, who went to police station, shouted in front of the police saying 24 घंटे में कुछ नहीं किया तो हम उसका घर चला देंगे, हम आके जवाब लेंगे, हम उसको टांग देंगे. And he said in a TV panel I was there, he said Sharia is above constitution. If they don't listen, my Islam is insulted. I will not stop. This is a Congress MLA. And what did TRS do? Nothing. Technical issue. ये लोग criminal नहीं है. Criminal खाली D Raja है. ये सारे technical लोग हैं. So this hypocrisy. And what about AIMIM, their business partners? AIMIM, their Akruddin Owaisi insulted Hindu gods and goddesses. Anything happened? No. Their Imtiaz? Nothing. SP, MP? Nothing. So these laws are very selective. These are only meant. Secularism, one-way street, meant only for Hindus. Even if they go to police station when Gyanvapi thing happened, they are ridiculed, they are joked about, they are insulted. How dare they not allow freedom of expression? That is what was said about Ratan Lal, the professor of Delhi University. So my submission is that these people who are talking all this, great gyan, need to go back. Either they can stay in a Sharia state or allow us to work like a democracy and stop if using veto power of Islam on our head. We have already given enough for this veto power, and we will not give any more. We don't want another Pakistan. So let them control their own emotions. They are living by constitution. They must live by constitution.
Okay. Mr. Pai.
And he talked about Desh ke Gaddaro ko. Just a moment. He said Desh ke Gaddaro led to riots. Is it true that Desh ke Gaddaro ka riots was not started by Muslims? So that means if you say something,
Mr. Sharda, those are all issues which are in the courts right now. So let's not go there.
They were saying
nonetheless, I don't condone anyone coming out and saying Desh ke Gaddaron ko. They are equally, they should all be taken strict action against. Hate is hate in whatever form, letter, alfaz, whatever you want to call it. Hate is hate. The Kashyaps, the others who have chanted Gaddaron ko, Goli Maro, whatever it is, all should be locked up. There's no space for this kind of selective crackdown. What we are seeing in Telangana, unfortunately, over the last 12, 15, 20 hours is selective crackdown. And I'm telling you, viewers, it's not going to end well. Because there will be a backlash. If Burke can believe in action and reaction, then there are enough Bharats who might also do this. So we are playing with fire. Mohandas Pai.
Rahul.
Yeah, 1 second, sir. I'll let you respond to everybody. No problems. You will have the last word, I assure you. No problems. Yes.
In the country, anybody insulting the holy icons of any religion, they should be arrested under the law. And the law has to be applied to everybody. We have seen people insulting Hindu gods, nothing happens to them. Whereas somebody supposedly, insults the holy figures of other religions like Islam, we have all these people going on the street and threatening to cut their necks and going to the government and telling them in 24 hours, if we don't do it, we are going to burn things down, etc. That is a threat. The government should act without fear or favor, make sure the law is applied equally to everybody, and the selective application of laws reduces the credibility of the government and creates a threat perception and a fear in people that people who take to the streets and threaten others can get away where others will go to jail. It is selective application law which is the bane of our country and our democracy, and that should be stopped. If people march on the street and threaten to cut your neck, they must all go to jail. That is a serious threat. And we have seen how that has provoked many people to actually commit a crime and create murder and murder people. We've seen what happened in Rajasthan.
Yeah.
I mean, that was provoked by all these mullahs. And those mullahs who provoked them should also be arrested, because religion is a very sensitive issue. People are very, very sensitive to religion, some more so. Whether right or wrong is different. But then they get inspired to go follow the edict and say, we're going to cut your throat, what are the costs?
Well, and it's people like Kashyap who's now shifting
incitement.
uncomfortably in that seat, and he wants to leave, I'm being told by the producers. Director Saab is also telling me Kashyap wants to go. What's the hurry, Kashyap ji? Shoot and scoot हो गया.
Hello.
ऐसे थोड़ी चलेगा. आप थोड़ा बैठे रहिए. 2 मिनट बैठिए Kashyap साहब. आपसे अभी 1-2 और सवाल पूछने. 2 मिनट रुकिए आप. भागिए नहीं. 2 मिनट. Don't worry. कोई जल्दीबाजी नहीं है. सब एतमान से सवाल पूछ रहे हैं. कोई चीख नहीं रहा, कोई चिल्ला नहीं रहा. 2 मिनट आप रुकिए. अच्छा. Now, Mr. Mitra, what do you make of this?
Yeah. See, there's 2 levels of hypocrisy out here, Rahul. The first is the hypocrisy of the BJP itself. They surrender every time to the street veto. Okay? Every time somebody comes out on the streets and threatens Sartan se juda, they completely capitulate. They act like a deer in the headlights of a car, and they freeze up. They suspend Nupur Sharma, they suspend this person. There is no room for free speech, and they are basically enabling and encouraging all these ISIS terrorist, ISIS overground workers to do things like Sartan se juda. This is number 1. Number 2 is the hypocrisy of equating the insulting a religious figure to calling for violence. Please do not equate what Raja and Pur did with what Mr. Kashyap and AIMIM and Zubair did. They insulted the Prophet. What these other people are doing is calling for the death of people and pay targets, kill people. Okay, in that people like Zubair act as the spotter and people like Mr. Kashyap act as the sniper. Because as you know, snipers always work in teams. One has to paint the target, the other has to kill. And that is what people are doing. So unfortunately, I find that TRS's hypocrisy the least out. Yes, it was their own minister who invited Munawar Farooqi. It was their IT minister who invited Munawar Farooqi with full security and everything to give a speech out there. But then they also gave bail to the BJP MLA within a few hours. So I would say they're least hypocritical out here.
Mr. Rashidi, how do you respond to Mr. Sharda, Mr. Pai and Mr. Mitra?
They were talking about hypocrisy. Rahul, I would like to start this quote that anyone who does anything that's unconstitutional or unlawful should be dealt accordingly as per the law.
Yes.
Said that, I would like to say that I used to find it disappointing, the hypocritic and the biased approach of yours, but now I find it ridiculous. When you talk about beheading, you say that Kashyap and other people were shouting about beheading, Sartan se juda and all those codes. Anything that is, I have already said that anything that is unlawful should be dealt as per the law. But
right.
You never did a story on Raja Singh, who openly among the masses of thousands said, anyone who opposes the construction of Ram Mandir would be beheaded by us. We will behead those people who oppose the construction of Ram Mandir. So you talk about hypocrisy on this channel. You were like talking about this TRS party person sitting here, that he is a hypocrite and he has 2 different approach for Kashyap and for Raja Singh. Now what do you say about this? You never did a story on Raja Singh. You never said anything about
Mr.
that.
Rashidi, can I ask you, can you put your hand on your heart? No, 1 minute.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
1 second, yes, just 1 second. Yes. Can you put your hand on your heart and tell me that we didn't actually do a story, and if I pull it out and show it to you, what will you do? Will you apologize?
Yeah, You might have done a story, but
you might have done a story.
Okay,
You might have done a story, so I can lie on television. And if I show him the story, Mr. Rashidi, look. Let me ask you a simple question. Let me ask you a simple question. I heard you very patiently, but I'm not going to take, no, 1 second. I'm not going to have somebody lie on national TV and let it go unresponded. So 1 minute. Okay, Rashidi Saab, मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछ रहा हूँ.
Anything that goes against your timeline, your agenda, anything that goes against your propaganda machine, your agenda, you start feeling that person. You won't allow that person to speak. Let me respond. You said that you might have done a story. I agree.
Do you, Mr. Kashyap, agree? Do you, Mr. Kashyap? No, 1 minute. Do you? 1 second, Mr. Rashidi. Do you agree with what Mr. Kashyap has said? Just answer that basic question instead of giving me a lecture. Just answer me. Let's ask you. Do you agree with what Mr. Kashyap has said?
No, I don't agree with.
I don't agree. You are a lawyer. Is it true or is it not true? Are you a lawyer? Yes or no? Sir, are you a lawyer? Yes or no?
If you understand,
are you a lawyer? Yes or no?
There's something called Mansria. Yes,
are you a lawyer? Yes or no? Are you a lawyer? Yes or no?
Mr. Kashyap, but at the same time,
are you a lawyer, Mr. Rashidi? Yes or no?
Rahul, I am a lawyer.
You are a lawyer. Now 1 minute. Now just 1 second. Give me 30 seconds. If the man is breaking the law, whether it is mens rea without, 1 minute.
Tell me, I'll keep mum. If you won't allow me to speak, tell me, I'll keep mum and I'll hear to the panelists here sitting here. 4 panelists are in favor of you along with you are already speaking as a BJP spokesperson.
Sir, they are not in favor of me. They are in favor of the Indian law. For God's sakes.
Oh, I see.
You are also in favor of me. I am asking for action against Raja.
I can see the
I am asking for action against...
Mr. Mitra is so much hurt by
Mr. Rashidi, I don't know what your agenda is tonight. I don't know what your problem is tonight. I am calling for action against Mr. Raja. I am calling for action against Mr. Kashyap. I don't want to raise my voice and talk over you. Chalo, aap hi bolo. आप ही बोलो सर. आप बोलिए सर. बोलिए. खुल के बोलिए.
As far as Kashyap and their Narad is concerned, did anything, did anything illegal happened after those Narad? After those shouting, nothing such happened. Was there any mens rea of creating anything?
God damn it.
I
don't know, sir.
Illegal. Nothing such.
I am absolutely appalled at your poor understanding of the law. Now, sir, please, let it go. Let's let it go. Let's let it go. It's clear we are not, you will pull out any excuse to not call out hate on your side of the fence. It's okay. I respect that also. मगर अब तो बख्श दो sir. अब तो बख्श दो. Sorry, गलती हो गई आपसे मैंने एक truthful, honest question पूछा. You can't even bring yourself to without preconditions condemn this man who is shouting सरतन से जुदा गुस्ताख रसूल की एक ही सजा. And you want that to be dished out in a country where a person who goes out there and does this, whether Mr. Raja Singh has insulted or not.
Just one quick.
No, it's okay. No, Mr. Mitra, let's not. I didn't expect anything much more from Mr. Rashidi. I don't even know why. He's on his tangent. Even if Chalo Times Now has never said anything against Mr. Raja, how does it change the facts? Today we are saying it's good that Mr. Raja has been arrested. We also say that it should be equal, the law should be applied equally. Arrest the Kashyaps of the world, arrest the AIMIM netas of the world, arrest the chaps who say let's hang people from the nearest lamppost. There is something, and I've read out the law for you viewers. The law is very clear. 505, incitement to commit an offence. It's incitement. It's not about whether the offence takes place or not. It's incitement. The man today says it's mens rea. That means it was not intended. In the heat of the moment he said it. Right now, after 12, 15 hours after he made those slogans, he's standing on national TV. He's sitting on this panel saying, no, this is right. He should be hung. He should be beheaded. That is not mens rea.
Sorry, Rahul,
that is premeditation. Okay, so now let's go back to Mr. Reddy. Mr. Reddy, lower everyone's faders. Let's go back to Mr. Reddy because he's the only stakeholder that counts in this debate, really. His job as part of the government is to uphold the law of the land And I just want to ask you, Mr. Reddy, people are calling into question your bona fides. They're saying you invite a hate monger like Munawar, who has got a case, who went to jail for insulting Hindu gods. It's like tomorrow inviting, in your book, Mr. Raja, and giving him a platform. Is that right? Do you think Mr. Raja should be invited by Yogi Adityanath and given a platform?
Rahul,
I'm asking you this question, yes or no?
No. See, Rahul, people are questioning about Munawar Farooqi coming to Hyderabad. The government never invited, first in the case.
Really?
I wanted to ask you a question. Is Narendra Modi's government banned Munawar Farooqi in this country?
Fair enough.
To conduct
Fair
any
enough.
shows?
It's a very good answer. Yes.
So
is Mr. Has Mr. Raja been banned?
Listen, Rahul,
let me ask you.
You are keep on us. Let me answer something, then you talk.
Yeah.
Then you can ask me. I am here to answer. We are a responsible government.
Right.
We don't run away. We are accountable to the people of Telangana and to the country.
Yeah.
And Mr. Ratan was saying what TRS has done. The TRS party has brought a separate Telangana to our people. We made Hyderabad one of the most livable cities in the world. We have ensured people from various parts of this country can come to our state, our city, settle here, do their businesses, conduct their activities peacefully with utmost safety, without any communal rights and disturbance. If a couple of people are one or two, as you say, fringe elements talk something and trying to disturb the harmony, the government is not going to just tolerate it. So the question here is, there is no hypocrisy. We are straight. We are Telangana people. Our government is here to ensure safety to all. At the same time, we respect every faith and every belief. If somebody has an agenda, tries to drive an agenda, we are going to act properly according to the law of the land.
Okay.
We believe in the constitutional provisions, and we act onto it. There is no favoritism. There is no partisan approach towards anyone.
Okay. So I can only judge you, sir, on your actions. Your speech is beautiful. You get 5 on 5 or 10 on 10 for giving this very, very important message out. Thank you for the assurance. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm actually being genuine. Thank you, sir, so much. Tomorrow we will hold the same debate. Perhaps you will return to us and you will tell me whether action was taken against Mr. Kashyap, who is smiling and laughing, having a great time on this channel.
Rahul, give me one minute.
I also hope, sir.
1 more minute.
Yes, sir. Take 2 minutes.
Take much of your time. See, you are saying so many laws, IPC 153, 507 and all that.
Yeah.
And you have actually given so many other examples.
Yeah.
Without any prejudice. Again, I'm saying, without prejudice to anyone.
Yes.
Here also, without prejudice to anyone.
Yeah.
Any section, any region. The BJP state president also, Telangana also speaks about, he wants to dig the march. If he find a dead body, it is mosque. If he finds something, it is some other temple.
Yeah.
He also threatens the Hindus that...
Mr. Reddy, book him. Book him, jail him.
Listen.
Throw the keys away if it comes to it.
I want to know the sections that are suitable to this.
Sir,
the BJP state president says,
sir, excuse me. All these sections, section 153A, section 153, section 295A, section 505, section 506.
That if Hindus play Bhagavad Gita in the funeral rites, he is going to attack them. I just want to know the law. The thing is here, if political parties have such agenda to polarize, they are not fighting on the political grounds.
Yes.
They are trying to polarize.
Sure.
I am not trying to, say somebody's here. The question here is, I am repeating my statement.
Right.
TRS government will act equally.
Mr. Reddy, let me tell you, all of India is listening to you. If you don't take action against the other side, that is equally provoking, equally, and I'm using the word equally communalizing, equally polarizing, you will be seen as a selective political player who is pandering to one community above the other.
No,
if you don't act, I'm saying so.
I made it very
I hope,
clear
sir,
this
that you
time.
will act. We will have this debate again, and I hope, sir, you will come again tomorrow at the same time on India Upfront. I will invite you, sir, tomorrow. I will keep up my bargain. I will invite you back tomorrow on the same channel, same time, same show. And I will ask you, why has it taken 48 hours to do what is right that you promised? That's all. Mr. Kashyap is going nowhere. Neither are the AIMIM leaders going anywhere. They are shouting communal, hateful slogans, calling for vigilantism in front of a police station. The name of the police station is Habibnagar Police Station. Viewers, mark it all. Let's see what action is taken. Then we can judge the political party. I want to move on, viewers, very quickly to another big story that has been developing. Another front has opened up in the centre versus AAP fight here in the national capital. What we are now being told, and we are the first channel to have broken this news, because we accessed the letter of the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, V.K. Saxena, who's written to Delhi Chief Minister, Mr. Kejriwal. And what does he write? He red flags violations of norms. This is now being called Filegate. We had Liquorgate. This is being called Filegate. Why is it being called Filegate? We are being told that the Lieutenant Governor has written to Kejriwal, Mr. Kejriwal, to say that Mr. Kejriwal's office has been sending proposals to the LG's office, policy decisions that are signed by Delhi officials, not the Chief Minister himself. The LG office says that for smooth and effective governance, the Chief Minister should sign all proposals, as exceptions are allowed only in rare and urgent cases. While the Aam Aadmi Party dubs it another attempt to sully the reputation of the Delhi government, viewers, critics are questioning whether it's another way of Mr. Kejriwal trying to enjoy authority without accountability, using plausible deniability. If you don't sign off on something, you're not going to be held responsible for something. Mr. Kejriwal holds no official portfolio. He is the Chief Minister but has no portfolio. And now the LG says he's not even signing the files. Now, you know, viewers, if something goes wrong with a policy, the people who sign on that agreement, on that policy, on that note will be held responsible and accountable. What bureaucrats are saying is that there are file notifications where, on these files, on the side, where the term CM has seen goes. Not CM has signed, CM has seen. He's a Chief Minister without portfolio for 7 years. Many people say that he oversees the ministries and connects with the Janta. The charge is that Babus and not Chief Minister are signing files submitted, and these are violations of the procedure. And viewers, there is also the larger charge that if there is a problem, Mr. Kejriwal can wash his hands off any wrong policy decisions. This is wielding authority without accountability. That's the fundamental question. Also, viewers, today in a late-breaking development, we are being told that Mr. Sisodia is now going to also be investigated by the Enforcement Directorate for money laundering. So money laundering charges in the Liquorgate scandal have been added to against Mr. Sisodia's name, which means there is more trouble looming for Mr. Sisodia. I leave it at that. The news are coming up.
The centre believes that by bringing the national flag home collectively, it will become symbolic of not only an act of personal connection to the Tiranga, but also an embodiment of our commitment to nation building. Even though the opposition has criticized Har Ghar Tiranga campaign to the core, the BJP, on the other hand, has stuck to its nationalism agenda. While a political slugfest ensued over the use of Tiranga, the people of the country are dipped in patriotic fervour to celebrate the day. Even as the campaign gets criticized, the idea and the main aim of the centre behind this campaign was to instill the patriotism in each and every citizen. And perhaps BJP did succeed in doing that.
In August last year, Taliban seized to power. They promised they have changed. They called themselves the Taliban 2.0. But what has changed? I'm being joined by a very renowned human rights activist, Zarifa Ghaffari. Thank you for speaking to Times Now, Zarifa.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Zarifa, let me begin by asking, Taliban call themselves the Taliban 2.0. How far do you see that the Taliban has changed?
I'm really curious to know about it, that whom they promise that they will change. Because if they exactly promise that they will be changed and someone got this promise from them, so that person needs to, or that team or that country or whoever it is, they need to come up nowadays and answer all the questions. So that's so clear. We knew from that starting that they will not change and they will never get that, because it's not just a war. It's not just terror. It's an ideology which they are carrying it, the same from that starting of their presence in Afghanistan. After the fall of Mujahideen, after the retook of Kabul by power in 90s, they had the same thing. They were the same people. And the same thing was happening that time as well. They was promising women rights and education and everything of women time to time, but it was just a promise. And all during the 7 or 6 years of their time, their governance in Afghanistan, they never agreed on what they promised.
So Zarifa, how do you describe the condition of women and young girls in the country right now?
In a country where women are able or allowed, not able, but are allowed legally, and unsocial wise to sell their body parts, to sell their children, to sell their household, to sell their dreams, hopes, everything, but not able to study or work and earn some money legally and with honor to feed their family. So definitely that could be the worst happening to women. Nowadays, Afghanistan is the only one country around the world where girl child is not able to go to school, especially for secondary and higher education. So it shows clearly that how women are surviving life in a country where just you
with vaccine certificate. So
the show tonight, viewers.
The Enforcement Directorate registered a money laundering case against Delhi Deputy Chief Minister Manish Sisodia and several others over charges of corruption in excise policy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Mangaluru on September 2nd to attend various programs. He will inaugurate 6 projects, including Anaga Refinery and berth number 14 at New Mangalore Port Trust. He will also lay foundation to the Sagarmala project. Supreme Court has agreed to consider listing a plea challenging the grant of remission to 11 convicts in Bilkis Bano case. A special judge in a CBI court in Asansol alleged that he had been threatened with a false NDPS case against his family members if he failed to secure the release of the TMC leader Anubrata Mondal, who is in CBI custody in a cattle smuggling case. Former Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa kicked off Savarkar Rathyatra in Siddaramaia's hometown Mysuru today.
Gender becomes a crime to stop you from all humanitarian rights. So definitely living in that country will cost you not only your life, but your dignity, your hope, emotions and dreams.
Do you think there is a chance for change?
Actually, it's so clear. They have to change. They have to change. not only starting from that small resistance or activities inside the country, but global wise, there is a big amount of resistance going on. There is previously, and in the history of Afghanistan, it was always men rising up and changing the situation. But this time we see it globally that there are women who are stepping up. Women of Afghanistan are not anymore women of 90s. So it's so clear that they have to change. Otherwise, they need to just give up.
You also recently visited Kabul, if I'm not wrong. How do you see the country has changed?
But just few days later, the closure of schools, and that also in a way that schools were open, girls were already inside school for 1 or 2 hours, and then suddenly Taliban are coming and kicking them out of their classes. So this is, this was that, climbing up into the top of a mountain and then without having anything in your hand to help you and support you, you fell down and you broke into pieces. So that happened not only to me, to everyone around the country and outside the country, for all Afghan citizens all around, especially for women.
The most pressing issues, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivshankar.
For decision makers, for the opinionated, for the unsure, for dinner time debaters, from metro stations to living rooms.
We present the facts and help India make a judgment. From stories that shake the nation to opinions that shape them, I delve deep into the biggest news of the day and uncover every fact, every source, and every statement through debate and discussion. Get a 360-degree perspective on every story and get a conclusive closure. Join me, Navika Kumar, on the Newshour at 9, only on Times Now. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In 2015, Arvind Kejriwal stormed to power in New Delhi, promising change and accountability that no other political party was offering. In 2017, Arvind Kejriwal said, and I quote, "Accountability is the key to good governance. Someone must be held accountable and face consequences for inefficiency or wrongdoing." Well, many would say Arvind Kejriwal must read his own Twitter timeline and take his own advice. On one hand, the Delhi government is under fire over its excise policy, and on the other, there is another flashpoint now that puts the onus of accountability on the Kejriwal government. A battle between the centre and Aam Aadmi Party government has been triggered. This time it's a letter bomb that has sent sparks flying between the two power centres. Delhi Lieutenant Governor V.K. Saxena has shot off a letter to Delhi Chief Minister red flagging violations of the norms. LG has said that Kejriwal's office has been sending proposals to his office that are signed by Delhi officials, joint secretaries and additional secretaries, and not by the CM himself. Exceptions are allowed only in rare and urgent cases, read the letter. The LG made it clear that in absence of a signature, Chief Minister's approval is not clear. Test number 2 for Arvind Kejriwal. His deputy Manish Sisodia now has 2 agencies on his trail. Enforcement Directorate, we understand, has registered a case of money laundering revolving around Delhi's excise policy. The ED will now look into a slew of shell companies that were set up by individuals which are suspected to have played a role in changing the excise policy in the national capital. But the Aam Aadmi Party continues to defend its kattar imandar politician. Listen in.
जो काम अब तक तुमने अलग अलग राज्यों में सरकारों को तोड़फोड़ करने के लिए किया है, उसका जवाब दो। ये ऑपरेशन लोटस जो ऑपरेशन बोगस बन गया, इसका जवाब दो। क्यों मनीष सिसोदिया के ऊपर दबाव बना रहे थे सरकार तोड़ने के लिए? क्यों मनीष सिसोदिया पे दबाव बना रहे थे बीजेपी में शामिल होने के लिए? क्यों मनीष सिसोदिया के ऊपर दबाव बना रहे थे ईडी सीबीआई के जरिए कि दिल्ली की सरकार गिरा दी जाए? आप पूरे देश में यही करना चाहते हो? यही ड्रामे चलाना चाहते हो?
Now, this is the very same policy that Aam Aadmi Party has been claiming to be a zero-loss policy. Here are some facts that I would like to put forth, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at the numbers on your screens, you'll see how retail margins for vendors increased from nearly 10 times, from 33 rupees for every bottle sold right up to 330 rupees under this policy. The old liquor policy left the retailer, way more richer than it was in the previous policy. And a whopping jump for the retailer at the cost of taxpayers and tax levied on it sent them laughing to the banks. Let's look at another set of numbers. The maximum retail price payable by the end consumer for a said bottle of liquor rose from 530 rupees to 560 rupees under the new policy. Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal face 3 different setbacks tonight. Agencies closing in on his deputy, his position questioned by the LG, and an alleged scam that seems to be spilling more and more uncomfortable truths for the ruling party of Delhi. So that, ladies and gentlemen, brings me to the legitimate question on the Newshour tonight. Is the Kejriwal power without accountability model going to work? That's the question, and that's the debate. Delhi Filegate disclosure. That's the hashtag and the debate. Coming up on the other side.
You're watching the Newshour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight, Gaurav Bhatia, national spokesperson of the BJP, Subhrashtra, author and founder of The Churn, Aryama Sundaram, senior advocate, will join us in just a bit. Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate in the Supreme Court. But my first question goes to Ms. Reena Gupta, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. Reena Gupta, the questions are only increasing, and the questions come out of the statements made by the Aam Aadmi Party itself. You know, there has been a charge that has been made that Mr. Manish Sisodia got a call from the BJP and there was an lucrative offer for him to leave the Aam Aadmi Party and join the BJP. on the other hand, are other issues of money laundering cases that are being registered, and questions that are now being raised on the profit margins of those who got liquor license. If the profit margin per bottle was increasing from 33 rupees to 330 rupees and the cost for the consumer was also rising, why then were you so impressed with the excise policy that had been presented in Delhi?
So Navika, first of all, the Bharatiya Janata Party does not seem to be able to get its numbers right. One day they talk about 10,000 crore scam in the liquor policy. Mr. Manoj Tiwari was screaming from rooftops, 10,000 crore ka scam ho gaya. Then they spoke about some 500 crore scam. Then they spoke about some 144 crore scam. Now you look at the CBI charge sheet, it talks about 1 crore. Even in that 1 crore, they say that they've heard from their sutron se pata chala hai. There is no money trail. They spent 15 hours in Mr. Manish Sisodia's residence. They did not find anything. So the bottom line is that every day they start taking out one part of the policy and coming out with some arbitrary numbers from the hat with no proof, no evidence to back those numbers. And you can't take out different parts of the policy and then discuss them on a TV debate. You have to look at the policy. He was basically trying to make sure that the business becomes more transparent. The policy was trying to ensure that the government does not remain in the liquor business. The government has no reason to remain in the liquor business. So the policy was going to bring in more market forces, make it more competitive. However, because of the interference of the LG, the policy was not allowed to be implemented the way it was planned. And that is the reason why, you can't take out one part of it, say, commission zyada kar diya, licenses kam kar diye, ye kar diya, wo kar diya, because these things, when you take out one thing out of context, it doesn't make any sense. The bottom line is, since the time Aam Aadmi Party government has been elected in Delhi, the Bharatiya Janata Party has been trying to frame false illegal charges against all our elected representatives, 150 FIRs against our MLAs, raids against the Chief Minister, raids against the Deputy Chief Minister. But till now, they have not been able to give any evidence. There has been no charge sheet filed against any of our MLAs. Most of them have been let go. In fact, the courts have come down very heavily on Delhi police and said that this is vindictive politics, this is vendetta politics.
But Reena Gupta, it's also true that Mr. Satyendra Jain was arrested about 2.5 months ago, if I'm right, and he still hasn't got bail. So why do you forget that part, of the investigation and the charges? He still hasn't got bail. And also, I have in my hand the Delhi High Court judgment on the liquor case, where the Delhi High Court has clearly pointed out that the petitioners, which is your government, can give a license fee relaxation to the liquor vendors only because they haven't even registered the brands as they were supposed to. 50% or less than 50% were registered, and that is the reason why you had to give a waiver on the license fee. Now that clearly would mean loss to the exchequer, and if that loss to the exchequer has happened, I go back to Mr. Kejriwal's words, accountability is important for governance. On whom has this accountability been fixed?
The loss of the exchequer has happened, Navika, because at the last minute, the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi changed the conditions of the policy. As a result of that, several shops could not be opened. So this loss to the exchequer has happened because the policy was not allowed to be implemented the way it was planned. Due to unnecessary influence of the Bharatiya Janata Party and interference from the LG's office. If the Delhi government would have been allowed to implement the policy the way it was planned, the way it was discussed and deliberated with all stakeholders, then I can assure you this would have been one of the best policies in the country. And there were several experts, excise experts, who were saying that it's a great policy, it's a transparent policy, it will do away with all, a lot of the corruption. which existed in the liquor business. You talk to the
okay,
to
all right, Gaurav
Bhatia,
it is your interference in the framing of the policy, which should have been in the domain of the Delhi government alone, that has led to the losses to the exchequer. Respond to the charge made by the Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson.
Navika, this probe is weighing so heavily on the minds of Arvind Kejriwal, Manish Sisodia and the spokespersons. They have already started talking about a charge sheet. I was only aware of an FIR, not a charge sheet. But Reena Gupta ji just said that charge sheet only talks about 1 crore. And there also she is wrong. Because first of all, let me share some facts and the questions that the BJP has been posing. Voices of the people that have been asking these questions. The first is, if the policy was so good, why did you withdraw it if there was nothing wrong with it? Arvind Kejriwal has no answers. The spokesperson will have none. Second, very blatantly Manish Sisodia says only 1 crore is written in the FIR. I have a copy of the FIR, assuming it is only 1 crore. FIR is not an encyclopedia. The probe has to take place, investigation is going on, and it seems it's a scam of thousands of crores of taxpayers' money. But I have a copy of the FIR, and I would show 1 crore is written on the top. Below that is 2 to 4 crore, another dubious transaction that has taken place from people who have been given favors by Manish Sisodia. And most importantly, don't miss the annexure to the FIR, which is a letter of the LG. And the question is this, that when Rule 48 did not allow you to make this waiver, how did you make a waiver of 30 crore is my first question. The Act, Delhi Excise Act, and the rules of the Delhi excise rules make it very clear that this waiver can't be given. But overlooking the rules and the law, they gave this waiver. My next question would be, okay, you don't agree with the functioning of the LG, but there is another show cause notice given by their own excise department, 26th of October 2021. Navika, around 8 months passed before the CBI registered an FIR. Can the spokesperson here tell us at least in the last 8 months what action was taken against these persons to whom you gave a show cause notice? And do you know how dubious the working of this policy is? Navika, there is one buddy retail. Buddy retail says it all. Manish Sisodia took it literally and thought that he is a buddy of Manish Sisodia. So he should be curried favors. But a person who is dealing with wholesale of liquor cannot be given a retail license. In this case, Indo-Spirit was. And Indo-Spirit also had a stake with Khao Gali. Sorry, Khao Gali, I think. It is not Khao Gali for Arvind Kejriwal. So they were also into retail licensing. How can you be part of a wholesale licensing scheme and also part of a retail licensing? That's a violation of their own policy. So I think these 4 questions are enough to start the debate. She can choose even one of them, and if she decides to answer, then I'll pose some more questions.
Reena Gupta, you want to take any of the questions?
Yeah, I can, Navika, I can answer any of the questions. I've also, I made a mistake. Yes, it's the FIR. I've also read the FIR. Where is the money trail? Where is the culpability? It's like, it's like saying that, they were showing photographs of Mr. Manish Sisodia with some people. So there are photographs of Mehul Choksey and Nirav Modi with the Prime Minister. Can we establish that Mr. Modi was involved in allowing Nirav Modi and Mehul Choksey to run away?
No answer.
These are willful defaulters. They are photographs. And these are willful defaulters according to the government of India.
But that's not the question. The question is about the linkage between the companies that he's talking about.
Culpability like this when there is no money trail. Where is the culpability?
That's a matter of investigation. That's a matter of investigation, and specifics are not getting any replies on any debates because we don't have the details of those. The investigation agencies hold the details, and therefore making the charges on specific companies, I think, is pointless as far as this debate is concerned. I see Mr. Arima Sundaram smiling. Mr. Arima Sundaram, if we are not getting into the specifics of the company, which one is a shell company, how one is connected to the other, because that's a matter of investigation, I just want to ask you the broad principle. The broad principle is, and this is a matter because we've shown this in a table which is on the workings of agencies which are investigating the matter, and the broad principle is that the retail margin went up from 33 rupees to about 330 rupees. For the sellers. Now retail margin 10 times it has grown. So it increases the volume of profit, number one, for the retailers. Number two, I want to add to this, and I'm not taking a political or a moral view of this. I'm merely talking about the turnover numbers. And I want to say that if the drinking age is reduced from 25 to 21, does the volume of people consuming liquor grow up, yes or no? Number two, if the timing of when liquor is sold is also increased, and add to this the fact that there is a profit margin of 330 rupees per bottle, which is 10 times more, people can do 1+1 schemes and also create lucrative offers for people to buy more, and therefore further increase in volumes. I want to ask you, when there is this increase in volume and turnover of daru that is sold in Delhi, do you think the excise calculations that were made by this policy would remain the same, would factor in the increase in turnover of this kind? Arima Sundaram, and prima facie, isn't that an area of investigation to your mind?
Look, Navika, you've asked a lot of questions in one, but I think what is the underlying thread in all your questions is as to whether there is justification for any kind of investigation in this matter. Now, let's accept one fact. Over the last 10 years, maybe it's because of the change in attitudes, maybe it is because the increased emphasis on anti-corruption, maybe it's because the media's increased interest in what is going on, the people's interest in saying that we want a corruption-free country. The degree of accountability and transparency has risen manifold in the last 10 years. Today, people are no longer willing to accept what was accepted 10 years ago. 10 years ago, things were taken as, all right, this man is making this much, this has happened, all right, this has happened, forget about it, life goes on. Today, our society is not willing to accept it anymore for the simple reason that this awareness of political corruption, awareness of nepotism, awareness of unfair possible scams has become all the more real, and we have been able to see it. Having seen it, this last 10 years, the signal change is this necessity for accountability, transparency has gone up. Now, when you tell me, and I take your words to be correct, that the price has gone up 10%, the profit of it, I turn around and say, look here, if it is a perfect market and there's going to be competition, how could it have gone up 10%? Is money going somewhere? Is something happening somewhere? Why is this sudden increase from 30 rupees to 330? I'm just going by the figures you said. Now, all these raise questions, and I think all these questions definitely bear an investigation in such a huge market. Now, you must realize that liquor, the liquor trade, is a huge, huge, huge money spinner. The liquor trade is something where we all know the volumes, the crores, the hundreds of crores of money which comes in. Therefore, if everyone is not purer than Caesar's wife, then there will always be a finger pointed. And according to me, in this case, there have been a lot of questions thrown up. And when all these questions are thrown up, and we, like I said, as people, today, the citizen of India demands answers. He wants transparency, he wants accountability, he wants explanation. I do not think that this is a matter where you can say, oh, an investigation has only been foisted or an inquiry is totally unnecessary. I don't subscribe to that view. I feel if the inquiry is there, then it's a duty to answer to the inquiry and satisfy everybody that all is clear and that there is nothing wrong in it. So I don't find anything wrong in the inquiry at all. On the contrary, I feel in a matter involving these kind of stakes, an inquiry which has raised various questions should progress and should be answered. And that is what I think a citizen of India would demand.
Sanjay Hegde, that's the moot point. If there is an inquiry, the fact is there are questions that are being raised, but the answers are coming in the form of कट्टर ईमानदार हैं, बीजेपी से ऑफर आया था कि छोड़कर आ जाओ, सारे इन्वेस्टिगेशन केसेस बंद हो जाएंगे. I want to ask you, can there be answers which are political in nature and then satisfy the citizens of India? Because this really is not about politics. Politics is the side story, and that's the way it should remain. What should really be the issue here is, was there corruption, wasn't there corruption? Because that's all that citizens would want to know. In this case, do you think the fact that there is political blame game that is overshadowing the actual questions that are being raised or answered is leading to some sort of a perception that dal mein kuch kala hai?
Well, the perception that dal mein kuch kala hai is something that you and your shows have encouraged over the past decade or two, as Aryama was saying. So it's everything is dal mein kuch kala hai. Look, 1,76,000 crores. Everybody went yelling about it. End of the day, when the things went through the court process, how many convictions have we had? So ultimately, for a citizen to definitively say that there has been corruption or there has been no corruption, you would have to wait for the court process to work its way out. Right now, what's also happening is a political blame game. Mr. Gaurav Bhatia is saying something, Mrs. Gupta is replying to him. So what is the citizen to believe? Now, as far as going as a Delhi drinker, I am telling you that there was this brief period when this policy was in operation, that liquor in Delhi, I was told, was cheaper than in most places in India, including Chandigarh. Now, that policy being reversed, I believe that at many places you can't, which were familiar haunts, you can't find a drink. Maybe the politicians of today do not think that the drinking classes are a huge voting bloc, or nobody wants the drinkers' vote. Maybe take your chances with that. This right now is a political campaign on one side, and it is being replied to
Sanjay Hegde, are you mixing voting and democracy with your drink? Because to my mind, there is an economic theory which says that if something is cheaper in one place and in a place close by, it is more expensive, then smuggling takes place. Isn't that the economic principle? Arima Sundaram, are we now going to begin to say that voters were very happy because daru was cheaper, drinks were cheaper, so the policy is fine? Is that a flawed way of looking at the policy and the questions that are being raised?
Can I just complete my point, Navika? You see, that was exactly what happened in the 2G case.
But in the 2G case, you bring it up again and again, Sanjay Hegde. Let me tell you, in the 2G case, the Honorable Supreme Court cancelled 122 licenses. You're pointing a finger at the media, at Times Now, saying that what happened, there was no conviction. My friend, why don't you ask this question to the Supreme Court, which cancelled those licenses, and still there was no conviction? Why are we asked the questions? Why not the Honorable Supreme Court, where you go every day and argue cases?
Exactly, and that's a decision of the Supreme Court which has been criticized by many. Mr. Sundaram will tell you that he did appear for many of those companies also. And cancelling sovereign contracts in that case was a huge economic travesty, if not a judicial travesty. Be that as it may. Today, let's get back to the facts of this case. In this case, there was a policy which made liquor substantially cheaper for the consumer. The policy also said that it would possibly gain more revenue for the state. It appeared to be a win-win situation.
Sanjay Hegde, I would want to stop you right there, because that's a fallacious argument, because according to the workings, and I'm talking about internal workings, these are not orders or judgments. Internal workings show that the consumer price had actually increased. Hold on, I have the right to speak on my own show.
Internal workings are
1 minute.
Documents.
Yes, my friend, we have been going to these ministries, stroke government departments, stroke wherever to get our news, and we've done this in this case also, where in many cases prices for the consumer have risen, but it is the profit margin which grew 10%, which was allowing them to give the 1+1 scheme and therefore raise the volumes of sales, and that, my friend, is something that should be accounted for in terms of the loss to the exchequer, because the new excise policy redefined excise collections. But hands going up on the panel. Arima Sundaram first, and Gaurav Bhatia, I'm coming to you after that. Arima Sundaram.
Can I comment, please, Navika? Everybody's asking me questions. I should get a right to respond.
Right after Gaurav Bhatia, I'll come to you, Reena. For sure. Yes, Arima.
Look, as far as I'm concerned, Navika, I heard what Sanjay said. He said there is a political blame game going on. Look, let's not forget, politics is politics. If there is room to blame, a blame will be laid. You can't avoid that. The aim of any political party is to bring down another political party and to make themselves more important, which makes it all the important that any political party will definitely see to it that they are free from blame if they don't want to get blamed for it, because they know another party is going to blame them. What I do want to point out is one thing, and I am repeating this. 10 years ago, the India that we knew, for the last 20 years before that, we'd have one scam after another scam, which never really materialized as scams until finally the Supreme Court started taking up matters and discovered scam after scam, and then the media started getting into it. What has happened in the last 10 years is, anything at all happens, anything out of the way, anything out of the ordinary, then both the government's policy of anti-corruption, the stated manifesto of anti-corruption, everything else has made the Indian citizen more averse to anti-corruption than he has ever been before. It is no longer a way of life. It's no longer an acceptable thing. It is no longer acceptable that people say, politics may, this kind of thing goes on. We got to accept that there is corruption. People in India today, especially the youth, the younger drinking age that my friend Sanjay Hegde is talking about, they are probably the most vociferous against corruption. Now, the point of the matter is that any government which comes out with a policy, especially dealing with something like a liquor trade, especially dealing with high profit margins, it is going to be looked at very, very, very carefully, thanks to the legacy we've had over the last 25 years of all these kind of things which have come out, scams which have come out. Anything that's going to happen today, it is going to be looked through with a very, very, very stern lens. Now, my point is this: questions have been raised. The fact is, questions have been raised. Some of the questions appear logical, definitely, and certainly deserve an answer. The purpose of the inquiry is to find the answer. if it can be answered satisfactorily as to why profit margins have increased, why all this is happening, what is going to be the revenue return, everything else, then that's the end of the matter. But to say there should be no inquiry at all, that I cannot understand.
Well, so Reena Gupta, everybody...
Or is it a fixed inquiry? That's the question, isn't it?
Oh.
That's the perception question. That's the perception
So
question.
fixed inquiry. You've decided it's a fixed inquiry.
No,
even before it's begun.
I'm asking you, when you speak of perceptions, isn't there a perception that there are fixed inquiries also? Now, just 1 minute, Gaurav, because Aryama referred to me. Let me just put this thing to Aryama. Aryama, you know that there are several inquiries which are there for the purposes of fixing people. Right from your DMK days of the Chief Secretary case, E.P. Royappa's case, we've had government after government going after its
I got your question. Is this a fixed inquiry? Are you trying to fix somebody? Gaurav Bhatia, that question is better answered by you than by Aryama. So Gaurav Bhatia, respond.
So to Sanjay ji, I would only say, he's a very seasoned lawyer, my colleague at the bar, just like Sundaram ji. If there is a fixed inquiry, there is a case of political vendetta. Sanjay ji, don't you agree even Aam Aadmi Party and Manish Sisodia can move the court and get the FIR quashed? That's the relief. This is free advice from our side, but the broad principles, because Sanjay bhai spoke about broad principles. Sanjay ji, leave the politics aside. You are a very astute lawyer. I will only talk to you in legal terms. Tell me, when an FIR is lodged, especially in the case of CBI after the PE, is there a prima facie case or not? Is CBI entitled to investigate or not till the investigation is stayed or the FIR is quashed? Third, these are the questions that have been posed and none have answered the questions I'm raising. How can you give license to a blacklisted company? How can you refund 30 crores which is in violation of Rule 4811B of the Delhi Excise Rules? How can you waive off 144 crores when there is no specific provision in the tender as stated by the LG? And why did the revenue of the Delhi government, and you will be surprised Sanjay Ahegla ji, you will also join me, in 2019-20 the excise revenue was 6,898 crore, and in 2021-22 in the first quarter it is only 614 crore, multiplied by 4 and it comes to 2,400 crore approximately, still down by 60%. Who's getting the 60% money, around 3,000 crore? This needs to be answered.
It is because you interfered in the policy, and isn't that the allegation being made, Tehseen Poonawalla, by the Aam Aadmi Party, that it was the BJP which was not allowing this policy to go in toto, which caused. So Tehseen Poonawalla, where do you stand on this entire controversy? Because I'm coming to you, Reena, right after, because Tehseen has a question to you. You can answer all the questions together. Tehseen.
Namaskar, Navika ji. Finally, I come into the debate. So I'm going to be brief, but I want to ask some very specific questions of the AAP spokeswoman. 2 or 3 very specific questions. You claimed your policy would bring in about 10,000 crores of revenue, which is now down to about 2,000 crores. So there's certainly been a loss in revenue. Nobody is disputing that. If there has been a loss in revenue and you are blaming the LG for it, why did you go ahead for the implementation of the policy when the LG had clearly objected to it, as per your statement right now on Times Now? If no, then why has there been a loss if the LG did not interfere? A. B. Manish Sisodia ji claims that the Bhajpa is that BJP is trying to bribe him. That is a very serious criminal offence. If true, why doesn't Mr. Manish Sisodia ji file an FIR under 120B and 420 and, frame charges against the Bharatiya Janata Party? This is a criminal offence. It's not a political charge that Manish Sisodia ji is making. He claims to have evidence, so he's duty bound to file that. And third, Mr. Kejriwal promised 500 schools, he's now fighting to open 500 liquor stores. Let's leave that aside. Mr. Kejriwal, when he was doing the movement India against corruption, he would often accuse BJP and Congress of corruption, and he would say, look, step down until you're proved innocent. In this case, I don't see Mr. Sisodia as corrupt at all. But why doesn't Mr. Sisodia step down, prove himself innocent, and come back? Why is he continuing?
Reena Gupta-ji, answer all the questions and also answer, forget Mr. Sisodia, who's not, only an FIR has been filed. Mr. Satyendra Jain is in jail for the last 2.5 months. Even he hasn't stepped down. So, Reena Gupta-ji, please answer all the questions.
So, Navika-ji, first of all, let me say that we are not shying away from any inquiry. Any inquiry can happen. We welcome it. Having said that, what happens is that this government is known to file such inquiries and to, raid opposition leaders. We have seen it happening all over the country. There are opposition leaders who are on record from Maharashtra, Pratap Sarnaik and all, who have said that why don't you make friends with Bharatiya Janata Party, otherwise we will be raided by ED and CBI. So that fact is there for the whole country to see that how Bharatiya Janata Party-led central government is in a just like on a vendetta politics of harassing opposition leaders. Now what happens, Navika ji? Of course the inquiry can go on, but you are wasting the precious time of all of these ministers. Now Manish Sisodia ji, Satyendra Jain ji, who would have been spending their hours, their time in trying to figure out the best schools and best hospitals of Delhi, are now basically being summoned by CBI, being summoned by ED, are wasting their time in all of that. When the day any of these agencies raid these ministers, there's prime time debate, Navika ji. There was prime time debate when there was an FIR filed against any of our MLAs. The day the charges are dropped, the day they are let go, no debate happens. So what you have done is you have basically disreputed, discredited all of these leaders, whereas these were all false charges to start with, and you know that the conviction rate. Can I complete?
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Can I complete? No, you cannot interrupt.
Well, Reena Gupta, the charge against you is that the Aam Aadmi Party has done its own share of shoot and scoot politics. You've taken the name of all and sundry and blamed them for all kinds of corruption. So clearly, that argument is not really going to take you anywhere. But yes, the jury is still out on whether the charges that have been made by the BJP and being investigated by the CBI will hold in a court of law. On the other hand, will the Aam Aadmi Party be able to come out and give the explanation, not just the explanation on the excise policy, but also on the issue of the attempt to buy out Mr. Manish Sisodia by the BJP, because that really is a serious charge. And as I close this debate, I want to clarify to our viewers tonight that there was a news break which was put out by ANI, which said that there was a case registered by the Enforcement Directorate against Mr. Sisodia and 14 others. Well, the clarification has just come from the Enforcement Directorate that the wire service that reported this ANI in this case was wrong, and that so far the ED hasn't officially gotten into the investigation. No FIR or ECIR as it is called. So putting that on record here on the Newshour, clearly many questions, very few answers. Who's going to be left holding the baton in this case is the big question. Will the BJP and the CBI conclude the investigations? Will the Aam Aadmi Party be caught in their own web of policies? The jury is still out. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on debate number 1. On the other side, the big hate policy in Hyderabad. The preamble to our constitution asserts that India is a secular nation. The meaning of a secular state is that it doesn't prioritize any one religion or its faith. Yet, as attempts to peddle hate are being made in Hyderabad, the crackdown has been selective. BJP MLA Raja Singh was arrested for insulting the Prophet. He has been released on bail, but hours after his arrest, the BJP suspended him and asked him to explain why he made those comments in the next 10 days. If his explanation cuts no ice, Raja Singh could be expelled from the party. However, a long rope has been given to AIMIM politician who chanted "Sartan se juda" during a protest march against Raja Singh. The selective crackdown by the Telangana police has raised questions on selective action. Are they open to calls of hatred permissible in our constitution? Watch this march of Owaisi's men and decide for yourself.
We want justice. 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 Raja Singh murdabad. Ustaga Rasul ki hai ki sada. Sardan se juda. Sardan se juda. Ustaga Rasul ki hai ki sada. Sardan se juda. Sardan se juda. We want justice. 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 Raja Singh murdabad. Ustaga Rasul ki hai ki sada. Sardan se juda. Sardan se juda. Ustaga Rasul ki hai ki sada. Sardan se juda. Sardan se juda. We want justice. We want justice. We want justice.
AIMIM Chief Asaduddin Owaisi, who till date hasn't condemned the comments his Member of Parliament Imtiaz Jaleel made, today fiercely questioned the BJP. He asked if they wanted to burn down Telangana with their hate. He was asked if this was the official policy of the BJP. But when Times Now confronted him about his own leaders, watch how quickly Asaduddin Owaisi left the conversation.
Sir, an open call was given to hang Nupur Sharma.
Thank you,
in
madam.
the middle of a large crowd gather. Sir, before I let you go, we need to play out that sound bite. If you can just respond to this, because you just asked Times Now for
you can do it,
let
you can do it, but I have to go to other channels.
Let us show you what Imtiaz Jaleel has said. One answer, and then you can go. Small request, sir. Mr. Owaisi, can you hear me? Mr. Owaisi, we're playing out that reaction of Imtiaz Jaleel. You just put out that question to Times Now. You said that's not what he said, but we have it. Sir, we have the proof with us, and I want a response from you.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 2 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And joining me on the debate tonight, Sriraj Nair, national spokesperson of the VHP, Karan Verma, author, also joining me tonight, Zubair Memon, political analyst. But my first question goes to Mr. Karthik Reddy, spokesperson of the TRS. Mr. Karthik Reddy, you know, we hold the constitution really close to our heart. So I want to ask you the question. Good action taken by the TRS government in Telangana to maintain law and order and to put Mr. Raja Singh behind bars. The question is, why let off the others? Because a secular state means that law and order should be the same for everybody, and the constitution and the law of the land has to be applied equally. Why do we forget that when we take action against some people who are spreading hate?
Good evening, Navika. Let me tell you and let me assure you today, TRS party has a reputation intact. We will not let anybody who has disturbed peace or who has tried to disturb peace or anybody who has broken law to walk free. Today, Raja Singh was brought to books. Tomorrow, whoever has done the sloganeering has passed the threats, and most of them, if not all of them, will be brought to the book. And let's not equate blasphemy to sloganeering, Navika. The both are not same. I'm not taking sides here. I do not want to take sides. And point two, if you remember, Navika, very carefully, there was a hate crime few months back where a person belonging to one religion killed a person belonging to another religion because of some marriage issue. And also, please, I want to remind you, when a minor was raped in a moving car in Hyderabad, similar doubts were raised on the TRS party because certain people were belonging to a certain party and they had their doubts that TRS would not act because these people belong to a certain party. And both these times, Navika, and I want to tell you, I want to point it out, that our reputation is intact. We do not take sides when somebody has broken the law. We will break the stick.
Okay. Mr. Sriraj Nair, we'll have to wait, but action will be taken. And Mr. Karthik Reddy says blasphemy is not equal to provocative statements and slogans. Respond to him.
Well, first of all, we have a very strong judicial system in this country. And I always said, even in on your channel also, that this nation gave the opportunity for a free and fair trial to even dreaded terrorists like Kasab and Afzal Guru. If anything wrong, what these people believe that Raja Singh has said, there is a judicial process. And let the due course of law go on. And if Raja Singh is found to be guilty, he will be punished by the courts. But here we have to go a little deep into it. This petty comedian called Munawar Farooqi every time has been ridiculing and mocking Hindu gods and goddesses. What about that? And we have to go a little behind. Akbaruddin Owaisi, whose brother left your channel in midway, he was the person to begin all these things. He was the person who ridiculed, mocked and spoke all kind of derogatory language against the Hindu gods and goddesses. A trial went on and after 5-6 years he was acquitted. So we are very sure that we have a very strong belief in the Indian judiciary. So we feel that let the judicial process go on, and if Raja is held guilty, he will be punished, or if he is not, he will be let off, like the way Akbaruddin Owaisi was let off and he is roaming free, and again uttering all sorts of nonsense against the nation, and it's even and against the Prime Minister also. So let us all respect the law and order of this great nation.
My issue, Mr. Zubair Memon, is not about who will be arrested when. My issue really is about why is there so much of hate that is being spread? Because we will have to get to the root cause of this entire issue, because ye sartan se juda kind of statements have become so commonplace today. They weren't like this a few years ago. I want to ask you, and let's not talk about the political dispensation because that's the normal argument. I'm just saying, what about the conscience of the people of India?
Umar?
Yes, Mr. Memon. I can't quite hear you.
In fact, Navika madam, you should not forget that he was a person who justified Sartan Se Juda.
I can't quite hear him. Karan Verma, would you want? Can we just take? Can we just? Can you take that question?
Absolutely. Look, till we are going to have selective outrage, until we are not going to be united in approaching this radicalization which has crept in our society, we are going to continue having these sorts of chants. If you are going to arrest Raja and you are going to let go of people who are chanting Sartan Se Juda live on video and are not even showing any regrets or remorse for it, then we are asking for trouble. The same political parties who did not say a word when the Chistis were baying for Nupur's blood and were shouting from rooftops Sartan Se Juda want the harshest punishment for Raja. They don't talk about Asaduddin Owaisi. Asaduddin Owaisi's remarks indirectly or directly caused what happened to Kamlesh Tiwari in UP. Akbaruddin Owaisi is a habitual offender who has crossed lines of blasphemy. I mean, I wouldn't even call it blasphemous what he's done, and he's gotten away with it. So till parties like TRS or Samajwadi Party or all these parties who are high vote banks, till they have selective outrage.
Let's not name any individual party. The problem is taking place from one state to another, Karan Verma. The question, Mr. Zubair Memon, is, Zubair Memon, I am not one of the votaries who will encourage any kind of blasphemy or any kind of words to be uttered against anybody's faith, and it is absolutely a no-no, and that's how we've all been brought up in this country, where the secular fabric, where the diversity is the beauty of India. But the question is, there has to be social responsibility as well. What about social responsibility? If you know, people don't start condemning these kind of statements and slogans coming from either side of the fence?
बिल्कुल, you are right in the question that there should be social responsibility. मैं 2 पॉइंट्स एकदम क्लियर करना चाहूंगा कि हेट इतनी देश में बढ़ क्यों रही है. इसका एक सादा सा उदाहरण है कि 2 दिन पहले राजा सिंह ने कोई स्टेटमेंट दिया, टीआरएस गवर्नमेंट ने उसके ऊपर स्ट्रिक्ट एक्शन लिया और उसको अरेस्ट करके जेल में डाल दिया. इसी तरीके का कोई स्टेटमेंट नुपुर शर्मा ने दिया था. कई महीनों तक पुलिस उसको धड़ पकड़ ही नहीं पाई, उसके ऊपर एफआईआर होने के बाद में भी उसको पकड़ नहीं पाए. ये चीज थी हेड बढ़ाने के लिए. एंड सेकेंड थिंग, जो सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी की आपने बात कही, बिल्कुल अच्छी बात कही. हर भारतीय के ऊपर सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, जिस तरीके से हमारे ऊपर है, मीडिया के भी ऊपर है. मुझे अच्छी तरीके से याद है कि नुपुर शर्मा आपके ही साथ टाइम्स नाउ पे ही डिबेट पे थी. ये स्टेटमेंट देने के 4 दिन बाद तक लगातार वो टाइम्स नाउ पे डिबेट पे आती रही. टाइम्स नाउ ने उसको ना उस डिबेट पे रोका और ना ही 4 दिन तक उसको रोका.
माफ कीजिएगा मेमन साहब, उस डिबेट पर भी उसे रोका गया था और उस डिबेट में भी कहा गया था कि देश चलेगा तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से चलेगा. मैं ये कह रही हूँ, एक मिनट मेमन साहब, एक मिनट मेमन साहब. कार्तिक रेड्डी, you know, there is finger pointing all along. I just want to ask you that I'm not just talking about political response. Isn't there a requirement of equal treatment from the law and order machinery, as well as some discouragement coming from the social fabric and the societies at large in our country? Have we just given up social responsibility?
Last 75 years, if we ever have to take a period in independent India, Navika, I do believe we are at the lowest when it comes to social responsibility. People end up saying anything on the street, people end up saying anything in assemblies and parliament, people end up saying anything on national television. I do believe our social compass is lost, and as leaders, people who are running this country's political parties especially, if we have to talk about when Nupur Sharma or today Raja Singh has uttered what they've uttered.
It is condemnable. And it is condemnable without any ifs and buts.
Navika, that's a point I want to make. The moral leader of this country happens to be the Prime Minister. I do not want to point fingers today, as your question is beyond politics. I want to keep it as neat as possible. But the moral leader of this country is the Prime Minister. I beg with folded hands to the Prime Minister of this country, please put out a statement. Call for end of statements like these. Aman ke liye to prardhana kariye is desh mein.
Well,
I request the Prime Minister do this.
Do we have to wait for somebody to call us? Have we given leave to our own conscience, to our own souls? Is a question we'll have to ask ourselves. The question today is, while there is a secular tolerance that is required in this country and that is guaranteed in our constitution, why do we still continue to be selective in our outrage? The question is, why don't we condemn any statement, including Sar Tan Se Juda, is a question that will continue to be asked. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on the Newshour tonight. Good night, be safe.
Watching the Newshour at 9. Stay tuned.
party symbol, flag of Bharatiya Janata Party is also there. But what is more shocking is this particular sticker which has been on the windshield of this car, which says that Vidhayak Vidhan Sabha Sachivalaya, Gadi number 0505. I'm sorry, it's a UP 32HH0001.
पता करिए उनसे कि 15 लड़के कैसे इस सोसाइटी में अपनी जीत देंगे। इससे बड़ी शर्म की बात नहीं हो सकती।
I am saying some things that are maybe not the easiest thing in the world to hear. I'm not sitting here or standing here promising you tens and tens of billions of pounds of goodies straight away.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. You were watching the News Hour at 9. Stay tuned.
Because I don't think that's the right thing to do for our economy. But I want to be honest with you. I want to be straight with the country about the challenges we face and what is going to be required to fix them. And that's why I think you can trust me on this, because I'm prepared to do that, even though it's going to cost me politically.
welcome to Newshour Agenda. I'm Madhav. Even as the BJP and Congress lock horns in Karnataka over the posters of Savarkar, BJP has now flagged off a Savarkar Rathyatra. Launching the yatra in Mysore, former Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa has said that he was saddened by incidents that led to the tarnishing of the image of the country. And the man who was hailed as Veer Savarkar by India's first Prime Minister. Now, this yatra comes in the middle of violence that has marred the state as supporters of Vinayak Damodar Savarkar clash with those who refuse to believe that he was a freedom fighter.
ದೇಶದ ಮೌಲ್ಯಗಳಿಗೆ ಮಸಿ ಬಳಿಯುವಂತ ಕೆಲಸ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಈ ಪೈಕಿ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದದ್ದು ಸಾವರ್ಕರ್ ಅವರ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಅಪಪ್ರಚಾರ. ಅವರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಸಾವರ್ಕರ್ ಅವರ ಸಂದೇಶಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಅರ್ಥಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು, ಅದನ್ನ ಪ್ರತಿ ಮನೆ ಹಾಗೂ ಮನಸ್ಸುಗಳಿಗೆ ತಲುಪಿಸಬೇಕು ಎಂದು ಅರ್ಧ ಶತಮಾನಗಳ ಹಿಂದೆ ವಾಜಪೇಯಿ ಅವರು ಕರೆ ನೀಡಿದ್ದು. ದೇಶದ ಮೊದಲ ಮಹಿಳಾ ಪ್ರಧಾನಿ ಇಂದಿರಾ ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅವರಿಂದ ವೀರ ಎಂದು ಕರೆಸಿಕೊಂಡ ಮಹಾನ್ ನಾಯಕ.
And today the Congress has implied that yatras like this are meant to divide the people, and therefore India needs a campaign like Bharat Jodo, the one helmed by Congress.
ಕಾಂಟ್ರವರ್ಸಿನ ಜನರಿಗೆ ತಿಳಿಸಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊರಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಡೈವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಮೇನ್ ಇಶ್ಯೂಸ್ ಇಂದ ಬೆಲೆ ಏರಿಕೆ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಗ್ಯಾಸು ಬೆಲೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿಲ್ವಾ, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರ? ಯಾಕೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತ? ಪೆಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಡೀಸೆಲ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರ, ಗೊಬ್ಬರದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರ, ಕಬ್ಬಣ ಸಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರ, ಈಗ ಎಲ್ಲ GST ಹಾಕಿದಾರಲ್ಲ, ಮಜ್ಜಿಗೆ ಮೇಲೂ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದಾರಲ್ಲ, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರ? ಜನರು ಕಷ್ಟ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕು ಹೊರತು ಯಾವುದು ಅಗತ್ಯ ಇಲ್ವೋ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ ಪ್ರಯೋಜನ?
Everyone is free to have his own yatra. The very fact that what you have mentioned, at least I was not aware, but that is exactly why a Bharat Jodo Yatra is important.
Veer Savarkar issue, unnecessarily these BJP friends, to spoil the atmosphere of the state, they have encouraging this subject. For that, actually, these Congress friends, they are putting petrol to fight it. Today, inaugurating Rathotsava about Veera Savarkar, what is the use for the common man by conducting this Rathotsava? What will be the message they wanted to give?
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Let's take this across to our guest joining us live. We have with us Madhu and Rao, BJP spokesperson. Anurag Naidu, author, is with us. We also have with us Syed Aslam Pasha of the JDS. Kamruzaman Chaudhary is with us from the Congress Party, and Dr. Suman C. Raman is a political analyst. Let me begin with, in fact, Suman C. Raman. Suman C. Raman, let me begin by what Yediyurappa has stated. Now, Yediyurappa has stated, and he starts his entire speech saying that there's been some kind of a misinformation campaign, or some incidents are tarnishing the image of the country. I'm saddened over the controversy of Savarkar in Karnataka, who was called Veer Savarkar by Indira Gandhi. So if you have the Congress's Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, calling him Veer, why is it that opposition parties have a problem with Savarkar is a question that Yediyurappa is posing even as he kicks off this Savarkar Yatra. How do you respond to that?
Madhav, first of all, I think there is a universal acceptance, whichever way you look at it, that Mr. Savarkar was a divisive figure in the sense that, he did evoke fairly extreme reactions. To be honest, if you go into the history, he was never a great fan of the RSS, which makes it all the more surprising to see the BJP hold him up as an icon, because Mr. Savarkar had very visible differences with the RSS. He, for instance, was strongly opposed to cow worship, which is a very, very important part of the RSS's, philosophy. He also, did not get along at all with RSS, the boss at that point of time, Shri Golwalkar. So I think that all of this in history has been there. Now suddenly he has become an icon for the Bharatiya Janata Party to hold up and go across the country. And I think that whatever there has been so much written about the apology letters, I'm not going into all of that at this stage because it has been repeated a million times on or at least 1,000 debates that we've had on various channels. But the point is, what is the purpose of this rally? The purpose of this yatra is very clearly to create more polarization in the run-up to the elections next year. Karnataka goes to the polls next year, and there is a need to create a kind of a divisive atmosphere.
Let me take that across to the BJP spokesperson. Okay, you're alleging this is happening because of polls next year. Madhu and Rao, of recent, we have seen several issues which many would say are of divisive nature, not just the hijab controversy, but Azan controversy surrounding Savarkar, eggs being thrown on Siddaramaiah. All of this, many believe, is an attempt to create some kind of a polarization in the state of Karnataka ahead of the upcoming elections for the assembly of the state. How do you respond to that, Madhu Rao?
Madhav, first of all, good evening to you and all the viewers and also the panelists. First of all, let us try to understand this. We never started this. It was started by Mr. Siddaramaiah asking as to why Savarkar's photo was in a Muslim area, so to say, quote unquote. Why was it required in the first place? And by the way, let me remind the Congress of their doublespeak. The issue is about their doublespeak, Madhav. Why is that Congress is telling that Savarkar is not a freedom fighter? Let me remind Congress party and other viewers, other panelists also. Way back in the 30, if I remember well, it was in the 38th annual session of the Indian National Congress in 1923, where a unanimous resolution was passed for seeking for the release of Savarkar from the gallows, and that was a unanimous resolution which was passed by the same Indian National Congress party, and that too under the presidentship of Maulana Muhammad Ali, who was the epitome of the Khilafat movement, who were called as the Ali brothers. And the same Congress party now says, who is he? Why in a Muslim area? Appalling this is, and that too from a Congress party, and that too from Siddaramaiah. And also, let me also remind the same Congress party, in when there was a royal proclamation which was in 1919, which was given, which led to release of several political prisoners. Mr. Savarkar was not released, and that point of time, Vallabhbhai Patel, Mr. Mahatma Gandhi and Tilak, in fact, they sought for the release of Savarkar. And let me quote for my friends, because they are talking about doublespeak. It is mentioned very well in the 26 May 1920 Young India publication, Collected Works of Mahatma Gandhi, Government of India, Volume 20, page 368 to 371. And they have all the audacity to say that who's Veer Savarkar.
Syed Aslam Pasha, you may have a problem with Savarkar's ideology. One second, let me come in. One second.
And we need to correct it. Who else can correct it? Can we expect Congress to correct it?
One question.
Gentlemen, one second.
Sir, how many freedom fighters were given pension by the British? Can you tell me how many freedom fighters were? Do you know that Mr. Savarkar received a pension from the British?
Mr. Sumansi Raman,
are you aware of it?
Raman, let me tell you, I think perhaps you might have not gone through it. Till 1966, now please listen to me. Till 1966,
Can I just come in now?
Was he given pension by the British? Pension was not even given to Savarkar. Savarkar was given pension in 1966 by Lal Bahadur Shastri. Please correct your facts.
Did he?
You please correct your facts.
Not 66, sir. Not 66.
These are the double speak. This double speak we are against.
That he was
when we are telling that he was a freedom fighter, people question him as to who he is, what he is. Let me remind you.
Please,
let me remind the Congress party.
Please.
Now the Congress party says who is Veer Savarkar.
Sir, was he given a
give me chance. Let me speak, because what is said about Mr. Savarkar, Mr. Suman, kindly. This is the same Congress party in 1911, when the Congress president Bishan Narayan Dar told British rule was still the greatest gift of to my race.
Okay. Let's
all about.
Let me bring in others into this debate. I want to bring in Syed Aslam Pasha now. One second, Mr. Madhav, just 1 second. And in fact, Sumansi Raman, let me bring in Syed Aslam Pasha. Syed Aslam Pasha, the question is this. End of the day, I mean, we all debate into the mercy petitions, into pensions, etc. But end of the day, he was a person who fought for India's freedom. You may not agree with his ideology, and that's fine. Everyone has a right to their own ideology. But the point that I'm just trying to make is, if he is a freedom fighter, if he was incarcerated in Kalapani, as we very well know, he is somebody who was a thorn in the side of the British rule, and that is why he was punished over there. So, I mean, taking away from his freedom fighter credentials, isn't that factually wrong for one's own political purposes?
Madhav, I'm glad that we have the intellectual panelists on this debate, and let us walk through the history. I'm glad that the BJP spokesperson quoted some facts. Let me also give him some facts. Madhav, first of all, Savarkar was arrested in 1910. Right? In the year 1910, he was arrested in Victoria in London. Then he was brought into Karnataka. Then he was brought into India. He was brought into Bombay, and the Bombay High Court sentenced him the Kalapani. And in August 1910, he was sent to the Kalapani jail. From the year 1911, he wrote the first mercy petition. He wrote the first clemency letter. After 1911, he wrote it again in 14, he wrote it in 1916, then he wrote it in 1920, and after all the letters, there were 6 letters which are written by Savarkar. In the year 1924, he was sent to the mainland India. He was sent to the Behrampur jail, and he stayed there. Then he was sent to Pune Erwada jail. He stayed there for 3 years, after which he was released. Now the question is, after 1924, I would want to ask the BJP spokesperson, does Savarkar have any contribution to the Indian freedom struggle? Now also after 1924, how can we forget the famous address of Savarkar in 1942 in Kanpur, wherein Savarkar, who was the president of Hindu Mahabharata,
you have not even answered my question, Mr. Pasha. Mr. Pasha,
against the Indian
one second, Mr. Pasha. Mr. Pasha,
against the Quit India movement.
You have not answered my question. First and foremost, that does not mean that what he did before 24 gets completely negated. He is a person who's been incarcerated in 14 years of jail. All that is zero.
My question to you and the BJP spokesperson is, after 1924, has he taken part in any of the freedom struggles? In 1942, he stood against the Quit India movement.
Let me bring in Anurag Naidu.
He also, just give me 30 more seconds, Madhav.
Quickly make your point, please.
In 1942, the Hindu Mahasabha partnered with the Muslim League. They partnered with the Muslim League. They formed governments in Bengal, Punjab, Sindh, and Northwestern Frontier. Do you want to know who was the CM? Fazlul Haq was the CM. Do you want to know who was the deputy CM? It was Shama Prasad Mukherjee. That time, the Hindu Mahasabha president was Savarkar. They suppressed the Quit India movement.
Madhav, let me come in.
Let me quickly bring in Anurag Naidu now.
The Quit India movement.
Okay, you made your charges, sir. Anurag Naidu does all of this take away from the contributions of Savarkar.
If you want to call it,
you made your point, Mr. Pasha. You made your point. Now let others come in also. Anurag Naidu, quickly.
Madhav, it appears like we are going to have a section on history. So enough of history. I'm very astonished, very surprised by the fact that Mr. Suman Raman is making a point that Savarkar was known for divisive politics. No, he was always known for uniting Hindus and the united Hindu philosophy which is brought in. And for some reason, let us give it also to Mrs. Indira Gandhi, who named Savarkar, Veer Savarkar, who hailed Mr. Savarkar for all his good work, and nobody is denying, even Congress party does not deny from the fact that he was a great freedom fighter. Now coming to the BJP and the BJP strategy, they have always flaunted the allegiance towards Mr. Savarkar and his ideology, including Mr. Amit Shah, who has a portrait of Mr. Savarkar in his office in Delhi. So BJP has never shied away. They always flaunted Mr. Savarkar, and if they are going to go to public with a narrative, taking the Savarkar's ideology, let people decide. BJP has swept Karnataka with 25 seats, in the recent general election 2019. So they have always been audacious about the ideology that they believe in. Mr. Yediyurappa had made it very clear. Again, he comes in as one of the parliamentary board members. It is his first rally in Karnataka from Mysore, from place of Tipu Sultan. again very strategic, and he always said that it is the time to remind people about the contributions of Mr. Savarkar, and which is a very legitimate argument. Why don't we debate on this argument? There's nothing wrong from what Mr. Yadurappa is pitching for. It is people who cannot digest the fact that there is somebody who is pitching in the real heroes of India, who has to be remembered, who has to be celebrated, and that is exactly what BJP is doing. If they are wrong, as Mr. Kumar Swamy is also saying, if they are wrong, let people decide. It was the Kumar Swamy's route by winning single seat in the parliamentary election. 117 seats BJP has got from Karnataka. So let people decide. Let you and
let me bring in Kamruzaman Chaudhary now. Kamruzaman Chaudhary, you're a congressman. I'm going to quote for you a letter written by Indira Gandhi, and this is a letter written on the 20th of May 1980 to Shri Pandit Bakle, the secretary of the Swatantra Veer Savarkar Rashtriya Smarak, that is in Shivaji Park in Dadar of Mumbai. It was on the 20th of May, and it's just 2 lines I want to read out. She says, "Dear Shri Bakle, I've received your letter of 8th May 1980. Veer Savarkar's daring defiance of the British government has its own important place in the annals of our freedom movement. I wish success to the plans to celebrate the birth centenary of this remarkable son of India." This is a letter that was tweeted by a union minister. Would you say that, sir, even Indira Gandhi was wrong? Mr. Chaudhary.
No, how can she be wrong? She even released a stamp to commemorate Veer Savarkar. If I'm audible, even,
then why is your party leader, Mr. Siddaramaiah, so vociferously opposed to Savarkar and carrying out these protests on ground?
Let me, Madhav. The point basic here is that just the one simple question that everybody needs to answer today: why is Savarkar so relevant in today's politics rather than Mahatma Gandhi? That's the number one question that needs to be asked of today. हम आपको एक छोटा सा एक बचपन का एक कहानी सुनाते हैं सर 10 सेकंड में। बचपन में जब हम खेलने जाते थे बच्चों के साथ में, जो कॉलोनी का बच्चे लोग खेल रहे होते, तो हम वहां जाकर खड़े होकर बोलते थे कि हमको भी खेलना है, हमको भी रखो, आपके साथ में, आपका टीम में रहेंगे, हमको भी रख लो। तो क्या होता था कि कोई टीम दया कर लिया, चलो आ जाओ, तुम भी साथ में आ जाओ। That is the condition of BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party, and the right-wing fundamentalists right now. They don't have any icon pre-independence era. Now they are fighting and changing the history of Indian freedom movement to get a icon out of Savarkar, make him a bigger than life image, project him as if as a Hindutva god or something like that, and project as if that Congress party and the rest of the population is against Savarkar just to क्या बोला जाए election का रोटी सेकने के लिए. That's the moot point out of it. Now the basic point out here is, let me just suggest you read one book by Ramesh Chandra Majumdar. He was a very right-wing historian.
No, but sir,
his book Penal Settlement in the Andamans. These people will always want you to.
Sir, you are saying Indira Gandhi is not wrong, and yet you are saying everything against what she has just said publicly. You can't have it both ways, Mr. Kamruzaman Chaudhary. Either she is right or she is wrong.
No, you are totally confusing.
But BJP is wrong. The point is
that
Savarkar has contributed to the freedom movement. He is either contributed or he is not contributed. Make up your mind, Mr. Kamruzaman Chaudhary. Either he contributed to the freedom movement as Indira Gandhi says, or he did not.
Pasha has already told you.
Make up your mind. You can't have it both ways.
No, he did not contribute.
Madhav, let me come in here.
Then why is Indira Gandhi saying he contributed? His contribution to the freedom movement has its own place.
Madhav, kindly listen to me.
Let me,
can I speak?
No.
So why was the stamp issued, sir, as you rightly said? If he was such a horrible person, if his contribution was zero, why issue a stamp in his honor?
1942.
Yes.
Now, do you want to discuss Veer Savarkar in 2022?
What's been going on for the last 20 minutes?
Election
there are rallies going on. That's the subject of this debate. What do you want me to discuss?
Can I just come in?
No, you are discussing Veer Savarkar, that's right. You are not discussing the main moot point that is there, why Savarkar has become relevant suddenly in the last 1 or 2 months in Karnataka. Why not in Bengal? Why not in Assam?
No, I actually asked that question. I actually started off asking the BJP spokesperson that question.
And
I want, alright, let's get in Madhu and Rao. Let's get in Madhu and Rao on that point. Madhu and Rao, you know the point, and please answer this question. Don't duck it like you did last time. Aren't you raising this issue? One second, calm down, Mr. Rao. Let me ask the questions here. Mr. Yadurappa has just been promoted to the parliamentary board of the BJP. Mr. Yediyurappa clearly wants to make a splash and show his relevance. So isn't this entirely an aim or a motive of Mr. Yediyurappa to make a splash in Karnataka politics once again, to show how he can actually hold his sway in the state's politics and yet play an important role? All of this, of course, we know in the run-up to various emotive and polarizing issues that have been raised by the BJP in the past several months.
Madhav, let me tell something. It is because of Mr. Siddaramaya's anti-Hindu activities, or rather his statements, which have prompted all these things. Now, I was just listening to Suman Raman having said that 1910 he was ordered to be arrested and all. Kindly understand, Narayan Chandavarkar, who was the Indian National Congress president in 1900, was the same person who became the judge, and he ordered for the sending Savarkar to the gallows. And let me also remind Congress party, they are a confused lot. They do not know their history. Indira Gandhi writes a letter in 1980, and believe you me, Sonia Gandhi in 2003, when the portrait of Savarkar was to be put in the parliament, she writes a letter to the President Kalam saying that why is it done? But she forgot that in the parliamentary committee, they having members.
One second, gentlemen, one at a time. Let's not do this. There is time. We have time to debate.
Savarkar's photo in the parliament. This is Congress party we are talking about. We do not want to get into all those things, but the point is this: time and again, the Congress party has always showed that there is only one family who is working for the freedom, who had worked for the freedom of this country, and no other person. This is what we are against. And believe you me, why did Siddaramaya talk like this? Now Siddaramaya talking like this, or the Congress party in Karnataka talking like this, is contrary to Congress party's own decisions. Because perhaps in 1980, Siddaramaya was not in Congress, he was in Janata Parivar talking against the Congress party.
Okay.
So he has not come out of that.
Let me bring in Suman Raman on another point related to Karnataka. Suman Raman, one second, sir, when you have a person like Mr. Siddaramaya who has started, we got your point, Mr. Rao. Let me quickly now bring in Mr. Suman Raman on this point. Mr. Suman Raman, you have a situation where Mr. Siddaramaya, when he was Chief Minister, starts the practice of observing Tipu Jayanti. Now that is obviously a move that got the goat of the BJP at that point of time, and here you have the BJP, which is now of course going on these Savarkar rallies throughout the state, of Savarkar Rathyatras as they are calling them. My simple point is this: with what moral authority does Congress have to criticize what the BJP is doing when it is pretty much the same thing that the Congress has done when it was in power?
Look, Madhav, there are two things. An incumbent government usually goes to the people and says, look, we have done all of these things for you in the last 3-4 years, and therefore you please vote us back to power. Now here is the case where the BJP is again resorting to the good old polarization attempt, and I am not pointing out to just this Savarkar Yatra. You take what's been happening consistently, whether it is the Azan row, whether it is the hijab row. So there is clearly a conscious attempt. Perhaps the BJP feels that they are on a very sticky wicket in Karnataka. There is talk that the Chief Minister may still be replaced before the election. So I think that is really concerning them, and they feel that, we will fall back. You remember, Madhav, in the UP election, before the UP election, they started to sort of go down the polarization plank, but then they stopped. And perhaps the feeling was they felt that they were winning and they did not need to continue the polarization. Here in Karnataka, it is clear that they feel that they are on a sticky wicket, and they feel that there is a need to go on these kind of yatras and to go on the regular divisive agenda, which they feel will garner them votes, and maybe it will, one does not know.
Madhu Rao, it is not just about this incident. Okay, let me put that question to the BJP spokesperson before I come to anyone else. It is also about what has happened in hijab, what has happened in Azan, what has happened in various other such recent controversies that we've been seeing in the state of Karnataka. Is it all just at the, at the doorstep of the opposition? Surely the government also, the ruling party also has a role to play.
Well, Madhav, as you mentioned, hijab was never started by BJP government. It was started by the five kids who filed a petition before the High Court. Did we start it? Azan, did we start it? There was already a petition which was filed before the High Court. And who started Savarkar? Did we start it? It was started by Siddaramaya. Did we start it? So therefore, don't let the Congress party and Suman Raman don't lecture us as to what we are doing it. We are trying to ensure that there is no divisive politics. The appeasement politics by the Congress is at the highest because they are losing everywhere. Look at the situation of Congress party in the whole of India.
We didn't start it.
They? So they are trying to get resurrected in.
We didn't start it. Congress started it. Syed Aslam Pasha wants to comment on that. Syed Aslam Pasha.
Yeah. Right. You don't start anything. The fact of the matter is you don't have an agenda to fight this election. Today what the state asks or the nation asks is about employment. Today what the state and center ask is about inflation. Today what we are talking, we want to talk about the agrarian distress. We want to talk about the agrarian distress. You don't want to talk about any key issues. You want to deviate and use diversionary tactics to get away with petty issues like running a yatra. Don't play polarization. This is an old agenda and it will not work anymore. People are looking for jobs. People are craving to bring down the inflation. What is the government doing for that? You are not doing anything. Right from small little daily essentials, everything, the prices have gone up. You don't want to speak about it. You want to deviate. You want to deviate the attention of people in various petty issues.
But unfortunately,
you are not even talking about it.
This is the problem of the Congress party.
What is
you
the
have
Congress?
been doing this appeasement policies from time immemorial.
We are fighting this election.
You continue to do the divisive politics. What British left?
Madhav, I am from JDS. We are fighting this election on healthcare, education, relieving the agrarian distress, and bring down the prices. Those are the agenda. That is the agenda we have for election. It is.
Let me bring in Anurag on that. Anurag Naidu, this is an attempt to divert from issues of development, issues of the common man, from price rise to GST to common things being taxed higher. Yes. That's the charge coming in from opposition parties. Of course, Mr. Pasha is saying it. That's what Siddaramaiah also said earlier today. So somewhere or the other, the question then that comes in is that what is the developmental track record of this government? We've seen 3 chief ministers over the past 4 years in Karnataka, 2 of which were from the BJP, Mr. Yedurappa as well as Mr. Bommai. Somewhere or the other, when you go back to the people, apart from these polarizing issues, they will have to prove what the development track record is. And one is not quite sure what that has been over the past 2.5 years.
Madhav, a similar question earlier during the day was also asked by one of the leading media channels, and I had a very simple answer. Look, Madhav, this is the political movement, what Mr. Yedurappa is doing, and what the government and administration is doing, it's up to the Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers to explain, and they are doing it well in the public domain. But Mr. Yedurappa is not in the government, and he is entitled to do his politics, and he's putting it right up there. He's entitled. Hold on, sir, let me complete. You are just one seat in Karnataka, so please let me complete. Now, coming to the Congress spokesperson, I am not surprised when he says Gandhiji is the only freedom fighter. No, he is the father of nation, of course, but he's not the only freedom fighter. The problem is we've had Congress government for the last 60 years, and history books were written in the 60 years, and this is the time to rewrite and write the facts, write more people who are freedom fighters, glorify people and make people or the youth understand who were the real freedom fighters, the millions of them, Bhagat Singh, Veer Savarkar. So this is the time. We missed all these things in the textbook because the books were written in the last 60 years where we had only Congress government. So it is a time to kind of bring out the truth in people, and somebody like Mr. Yedurappa is one of the tallest politicians in Karnataka, is trying to do that. So I think let people judge on that.
All right, the bigger question, of course, is that, from here on, where would we see the politics of Karnataka heading? We are completely, of course, out of time on this debate. Savarkar, of course, continues to remain a very, very important issue in the state of Karnataka. What are we going to see in coming days when this yatra takes place? That's something that we're going to watch out for. I'd like to thank all our guests for joining us. In fact, Madhu and Rao, Anurag Naidu, Syed Aslam, as well as Kamruzaman Chaudhary. We have with us Sumansi Raman, who continues with us for debate number 2. And yet another front has opened in the continuous battle between the centre and the AAP government. This time, it's a letter bomb that has sent sparks flying between the two past centres. Delhi's Lieutenant Governor VK Saxena has written to Delhi's Chief Minister red flagging violations of norms. The LG said that Kejriwal's office has been sending proposals to his office that are signed by Delhi government officials, not the Chief Minister himself. The LG's office says that for smooth and effective governance, the Chief Minister should be the one signing these proposals, as exceptions are allowed only in rare and urgent cases. While the AAP dubs it yet another attempt to sully the reputation of the Delhi government, critics are questioning whether it is another way of Arvind Kejriwal trying to enjoy authority without any accountability using plausible deniability.
जो एक्साइज पूरी पॉलिसी थी, उस पॉलिसी को अंतिम समय में कुछ घंटों पहले चेंज कर दिया गया और बदलाव किया गया। और इसी की सीबीआई मांग को लेकर दिल्ली के उप मुख्यमंत्री मनीष सिसोदिया ने सीबीआई को लिखा था कि इसकी जांच की जाए, लेकिन आज उस पॉलिसी को चेंज किया था, इस बात की कोई जांच नहीं हो रही है। आज जांच ये हो रही है कि जो एक ईमानदार सरकार है, उस सरकार के ऊपर कीचड़ कैसे उछाली जाए, उस सरकार को कैसे बदनाम किया जाए, क्या क्या हथकंडे अपनाए जाए, उस सरकार को कैसे गिराया जाए और कैसे गिरा के भारतीय जनता पार्टी का जो मिशन लोटस है उसको कामयाब किया जाए।
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Suman Raman continues to be with us, but joining us on the panel are Shahzad Poonawalla, national spokesperson of the BJP, Rishi Bagri is a political analyst with us, Vivek Srivastava, political analyst also joining us. Let me start with you, Vivek. Vivek, the allegation is very clear that somewhere or the other, the government norms, the rules of transaction, and in fact, not just Article 239AA of the Constitution that's been quoted over here, but also the Manual of Office Procedure 2022, Para 7114 has been quoted in this letter of the LG, if you've seen it, and it says that this is a dispensation that's only allowed in very, very rare cases. Why is it that the Chief Minister is not signing files? Is it only to escape accountability?
You see, first of all, I don't think it is very right of us to be, criticizing any government, whatever be the state government, just because it belongs to an opposition party, number one. I have been critical of the Aam Aadmi Party government on certain issues, like when it came to the implementation of the minimum wages that were passed by the state government. That is one issue. However, the BJP government at the center has the habit that it is trying to destabilize the opposition ruled states across the nation. Okay, that is what they are trying to do everywhere. There is always bickering. We saw what happened in Maharashtra. They got a slap in the face in Bihar in return. But however, and the LG, not only the present LG, but even the LGs before that, we had protested against them on so many issues. LG is acting as an agent of the BJP government at the center, as an agent of the Home Ministry. This government anyway does not have the Delhi police under itself.
Let me, for the sake of argument, sir.
Then there are criticisms of the free buys.
Yeah. Okay, Vivek Srivastava, one second, I'm going to come to all those points one by one, but let me just start with this particular point of this letter. Now, my point is, even if I buy your argument for a minute that LG is doing this all for certain vested interests or political purpose, if that is your argument, but the point is that what is factually wrong? Can you point out to what is factually wrong with what the LG has said? It is a clear practice that from 1993 till 2013, all the chief ministers signed their files, and particularly important ones. That is very much there in the rules of procedure and transaction of business. What is so special that suddenly Mr. Kejriwal takes over and stops signing files? It's a simple question.
You see, okay, see, now I'll tell you one very major problem. When Sheila Dikshit was the Chief Minister of Delhi, we had a Congress government at the center. So the Delhi government and the government at the center were basically of the same party. Now, when you pass bills even in the Delhi Vidhan Sabha or in the Delhi Assembly, many of those bills need the permission for the center, and then a confrontation is starting now, because the government in Delhi and the government at the center belong to politically
first 5 years of Sheila Dikshit were with the Vajpayee government, and before that there were BJP governments with United Front and Congress government at the center. So that's not factually correct.
No, you see, you have to understand one thing. I mean, currently what is happening is that since 2014 that the Modi government has come, the attitude towards opposition run states are very, very detrimental. They are very, very retarding. They are not progressive at all. Even in cases like West Bengal, when there were hurricanes, they had to virtually beg before 1,000 crores was released.
Okay, it's all political now. It's all political, and it's all because of the center. Shahzad Poonawalla. I want the BJP spokesperson to answer that question raised by Vivek Srivastava. Shahzad Poonawalla.
I'll give you an example of GST. I mean, the GST share of the state is also not released of opposition states.
Yeah, you made your point. Let Shahzad respond to that.
Opposition ruled states know that. Yes.
First of all, we should stick to facts, and fact number one, this is Madhav, not Anand. Secondly, let's come to the other facts of this debate. Madhav, if this was all being done vindictively, सत्येंद्र जैन की आज ही कस्टडी और बढ़ी है and 3 courts have said what he has: criminal background, the fact that he is prima facie culpable of money laundering. Can you please check the audio, echo audio? Secondly, what is this issue? This issue is because ever since Kejriwal's corruption files have opened up, now he is running scared of putting his signature on any files, because everyone has seen that in the name of Sharab Niti, it was a corruption wali Kharab Niti, and therefore they are not answering a single question on this Kharab Niti. I have with me, Madhav, a very important document. First of all, when it comes to raising fees of young children in institutions, that time Mr. Kejriwal wants to sign and send it because he wants to benefit the education mafia. The LG stopped it, but today I want to raise 2 very important questions in front of you. Firstly, on this entire Sharab Niti and the scandal, here is a show cause notice. This was issued by the Excise Department of Sisodia and Arvind Kejriwal government. It was against the violation of the new excise policy, where a blacklisted company, Khaugali, was allowed to come. But no action was taken on it till August 22nd. Why has no action been taken on it? This shows that there was a quid pro quo, because of which, despite the show cause notice showing a clear violation of the rules, no action was taken. Here's another example. This committee report said that there should be a lottery process. That was ignored. The wholesale should be with government. That was ignored. They increased the commission from 2% to 12.5%, and in this it's written that 10% fee should be increased every year. That was not done, thereby costing a loss of almost 900 crores. 30 crore EMD was given to the L1 licensee of airport zone.
Right.
These violations are not being answered in any debate.
Absolutely.
What every debate gets reduced to: 2024 vindictive hai Modi ji, ye ho gaya, wo ho gaya, and they have a so-called audio which they have not released till now.
All right, where's that audio? Where's that audio? Certainly a very big question. And Dr. Sumansi Raman, it's very easy to make charges, but the point is that those charges have to at some level be substantiated, and that applies to all sides. I'm not saying this for any one particular side. The simple question though in this particular case is that many would say that while these charges are being faced by the Aam Aadmi Party, comes this letter which somehow also brings up the question about whether Mr. Kejriwal at some level is trying to duck accountability. That's the big question, because here's also someone who the BJP has repeatedly pointed out is perhaps the only serving chief minister in the country, and Anurag Thakur has said so on record, who does not even have a portfolio or a department under him.
Okay, Madhav, 2 things. First is to refute the charges on the liquor deal. Now, all of the charges pertain to loss to the exchequer. There is no evidence of quid pro quo, and this is the point that I have been making repeatedly. For calling something a scam, you need a quid pro quo, and in this case that has not been established, or there has not even been sort of brought forward. All that they're saying is this should have been done, that should have been done, this caused a loss, that procedure was violated, and so on, which is for the courts to sort of opine on the procedural violations, but so far there is no quid pro quo. Let's come to this letter of the LG. The very fact that this letter was quote unquote pushed into the public domain, I don't want to use the word leaked, itself serves the purpose, tells you why it is out there. Normally, this is correspondence which goes on routinely. Request Honorable Chief Minister to kindly affix his signature, and this goes to the department, and the department goes probably to the Chief Secretary of Delhi. The Chief Secretary then talks to the Chief Minister, the matter gets resolved. Now, how convenient that this letter is actually in the media, and one more thing to throw against Mr. Kejriwal. It is now very convenient. You can say that.
Sir, if this is so normal, how many times have you seen such letters written, Sumansi Raman? And B,
honestly,
what is factually wrong in this letter? Can you counter this letter on the facts? I'm simply asking you. What is factually wrong in this letter?
I want to ask. Does the letter state, I have not read the letter in full, but does the letter state the number of occasions on which Mr. Kejriwal did not sign and the secretary or the
Sir, it actually does. It actually does.
This matter has been approved by the CM.
In recent months, a significant number of proposals. Let me read out the letter. Since you obviously not had the time to read the letter, let me read it out for you. It has been observed that in recent months, a significant number of proposals as a matter of routine have been submitted by our office for my approval and for my opinion under Article 239A4 of the Constitution by a joint secretary or additional secretary with remarks. Honorable CM has has seen and approved the proposal without specifying any grounds of urgency warranting such a communication. In this regard, attention is drawn to para 7114 of the Manual of Office Procedure 2022, which provides that in rare and urgent cases when the minister is on tour or is sick, his or her approval has to be taken on telephone. The decision of the minister shall be conveyed by his or her private secretary in writing. In such cases, confirmation shall be obtained on file when the minister returns to the headquarters or rejoins.
Madhav,
So it's very specific. I don't think it can get more specific than this.
Madhav, I have read this in full. I have, no it is not. No it is not. How many times?
You just said you've not read the letter.
What does significant number mean?
How did you read the letter in 1 minute?
10 times?
Mr. Sumansi Raman, you just said you've not read the letter.
At that point of time. No, what do you mean?
You just said you've not read the letter, so I read it out for you.
I missed some point where it mentioned this number. Madhav, I have read whatever you read. I thought that there was something more to it that I would not have read. Apparently there isn't. This letter does
Well, there are a couple of lines more, but this is the operative portion. All right, let me bring in Shehzad. Shehzad, this is letter that has been conveniently leaked. Okay,
just a quick intervention.
All right. This is a letter that has been conveniently leaked, and there's no quid pro quo. Those are two very important statements coming in from Sumansi Raman. Please respond to both.
Madhav, because Rishi also needs to speak, very quickly, you've been covering law and courts for decades now, I mean for a long time now, sorry. But you know that Prevention of Corruption Act causing wrongful loss to the state exchequer is also corruption, with or without quid pro quo. And in this particular case, you read the FIR and you have some other details also of the FIR. There is an established quid pro quo. In many cases, in the instance that I have shown about the show cause not being acted upon, in this specific instance, there is a 1 crore ka quid pro quo which has flowed from Indo Spirits via Dinesh Arora to Sisodia. So there are several instances of quid pro quo, but quid pro quo is not necessary under POCA, you know this, Madhav.
All right.
Where has it gone to Sisodia, sir?
All right.
Where has it gone to Sisodia? Where has it gone to?
I don't know, it's gone to you then. It's gone to you. It's gone to you.
Sorry about this.
No, it's gone to you.
Where is it?
No, Dinesh Arora is your collector.
No.
Is Dinesh Arora your collector?
What you want?
Is Dinesh Arora, Arjun Pandey and Vijay Nair your collector? You ask Madhav whose collectors they are.
How are they linked to?
No, Manish Sisodia was nobody. He was not tailor making the policy. He was not tailor making the policy. He was not meeting Dinesh Arora. He was not having secret meetings. He was not taking the money. He was not doing anything. It was spent for Punjab elections.
These are all names that have been mentioned. All right. These are all names and facts that have been mentioned on the FIR on day one. Let me bring in Rishi Bagri. Rishi Bagri, I want you to come back to the specifics because we are debating this letter and this letter raises some serious questions. It raises some serious questions about ducking accountability, and I think those are very important questions that the Aam Aadmi Party has to also answer. At the same time, there is of course serious questions about whether the BJP is misusing agencies. They have said that repeatedly there have been over 150 cases which have been filed against AAP leaders, and I think there's been just about 1 or 2 convictions so far.
No, Madhav, you need to understand that the CM is responsible for any instruction he gives, and he need to sign it. He need to own up the responsibility, and he need to take the portfolios also. Unallocated, all portfolio goes to the CM. So now this, the current CM, the current Delhi CM doesn't want to sign on papers, doesn't want to take responsibility, doesn't want to take any unallocated or any portfolios. Now coming back to the liquor thing, which is the bone of contention in this issue, you need to understand 15 to 20% of the state's revenue come from the liquor revenue in all of the states, which are living liquor taxes and excise. So Delhi is the only state which collected less excise despite selling 70% more liquor year on year basis. And this is not my number, sir. You can go to RBI and you will get this number. Secondly, sir, you need to understand our party have actually distributed liquor licenses very liberally, because they wanted to shore up their revenues. They wanted to bring transparency in the system. What they did was that instead of actually, you see, the sales of the liquor has increased 70%, and the taxes should have increased proportionately. But instead, the taxes has gone down by 80% year on year. Now, you tell me how this is possible. The sale of liquor is increasing 70%. More shops are selling more liquors, and still your revenue is going down, and you are creating a hole of 8,000 crore rupees in the state exchequer. You actually targeted 10,000 crore and you end up getting 2,000 crore in excise revenue. So where that 8,000 has gone, 8,000 crore, then that's a big number, because the 40,000 is the total state revenue of the Delhi. So 8,000 is definitely a very big number.
Vivek Srivastava causing huge loss to the exchequer. That's a direct charge coming in now. Please respond to that.
Yeah. Yes, now see, I'll be very clear with you, Madhav. There is a very big policy difference in the way Aam Aadmi Party is trying to run the government and the way the BJP and the Honorable Prime Minister of India is trying to run his government over here. Okay, and what is the basic difference? While the government at the center does not believe in free buys for the common man, does not believe in subsidies for the poor, the central government does not believe in giving facilities like a free bus service for the women, which the state government has given. So, I mean, there is a difference in the way you are talking of governance. Now, the Aam Aadmi Party government is trying to follow a system which is very prevalent even in other developed countries, which may be even capitalist. I'm not going to talk of communist countries like Australia or Canada or selective European countries, where many facilities like education being free or healthcare being free, medicine being free. So there are many things which a common man, especially in a poor country like India, needs. So whether it is for vote bank politics,
ration and medicine with alcohol, sir? Is it necessary? I mean, is it a luxury? Is it a sin good? What is alcohol? Do you think that the government should be now subsidizing alcohol?
When it comes to the revenue collection,
I think they are confused with the dawa.
No, see, I'm not talking about subsidizing alcohol. What I'm saying is, now when you have to collect the revenue, either you tax the people who are making big money, like the big multinationals. The central government is giving sops to the big industrialists, the big multinationals, the biggies, writing off the loans, writing it off as bad debts, and it is trying to stop giving the welfare facilities which the common man or the poor man needs. The state government, on the other hand, in Delhi,
how is that relevant in today's context of the liquor scam?
So now the tax collection model of the Delhi government has to be different. Secondly, the letter that you read, it smacks. I mean, it is good that you read the letter. I mean, in fact, because we have all read it. It's good that you read the letter today on the national TV, because it shows the kind of an egotistical attitude the LG is having. Why are you bothered whether the chief minister has a portfolio or not? Is it necessary for the chief minister to have a portfolio?
Is that standard practice according to you, sir? Is that standard practice? It's irrelevant. Shahzad Poonawala, it's irrelevant that CM does not have a portfolio. That's a closing comment. I'm not even going to go into the rest of it, of freebies, etc. But closing comment. It's not relevant that the chief minister doesn't have a portfolio according to Vivek Srivastava. Quick comment to that. 30 seconds, please.
Who, me?
He has only one portfolio, that is of saving all the corrupt, and therefore of saving all the corrupt. By the way, this government in the last 8 years has spent 90 lakh crore on social welfare and social spending. UPA government, of which Srivastava was a part, spent only 49 lakh crore in 10 years. That's not the discussion today. The discussion today is that rules and laws have been broken. Whether there is quid pro quo or not, that itself is incriminating. But there is a quid pro quo, and the Aam Aadmi Party does not want to answer any questions. Therefore, they divert to all the issues under the sun, but they don't answer straight questions about the liquor scam.
We'll have to leave it there. Shahzad, completely out of time. Rishi Bagri, as well as Dr. Sumansi Raman, Vivek Srivastava, thanks to all of you for joining us this evening on this story. We certainly haven't heard the last word on this yet.
The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break.
The most pressing issues, the most informed minds, free and fair exchange. Converse India with Rahul Shivchankar.
I do not get into Indian politics when I go abroad. You want to ask me that question, you come and ask me in India. What is Atmanirbhar Bharat about? You ask this colonial mentality question. Atmanirbhar Bharat is also about overcoming the colonial mentality. That somewhere something better is made. It doesn't have to be made outside to be better. It can be made in India and be equally good, maybe even better.
The News Hour at 10.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Mangaluru on September 2nd to attend various programs. He will inaugurate 6 projects including Anaga Refinery and berth number 14 at New Mangalore Port Trust. He will also lay foundation to the Sagarmala project. Supreme Court has agreed to consider listing a plea challenging the grant of remission to 11 convicts in Bilkis Bano case. A special judge in a CBI court in Asansol alleged that he had been threatened with a false NDPS case against his family members if he failed to secure the release of the TMC leader Anubrata Mondal, who is in CBI custody in a cattle smuggling case. Former Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa kicked off Savarkar Rathyatra in Siddaramaya's hometown Mysuru today. Congress party plans to embark on Bharat Jodo Yatra from Kanyakumari under the leadership of party leader Rahul Gandhi on September 7.
The News Hour at 10 will be right back after the break.
तिरंगा भी लहरेगा और ओठों से वही स्वतंत्र वीरों के शब्द गूंजेंगे, है वो नहीं वंदे मातरम बोलो, वंदे मातरम बोलो। आणि म्हणून आज सांस्कृतिक विभागाचा पहिला संकल्प मी महाराष्ट्रात इथून जाहीर करतोय की है वो नहीं वंदे मातरम बोलो। आता चांद्यापासून बांद्यापर्यंत मोबाईल असेल की फोन असेल, 15 ऑगस्ट उद्यापासून हा संकल्प सुरू। आणि तुम्ही सुद्धा प्रतिज्ञा घ्या कि आता यानंतर मोबाइलवर कोई है वो नहीं कहेगा वो देशभक्तों का गीत वंदे मातरम।
You're watching the News Hour at 10.
Pothole claims yet another life in Bengaluru. 44-year-old victim Supreet succumbed to injuries. Former Maha CM Uddhav Thackeray expelled 2 rebel Shiv Sena leaders Uday Samant and Yashwant Jadhav. The two had joined CM Eknath Shinde's camp before being sacked.
From being a waiter to being a Bollywood star, Akshay Kumar's life journey is anything but a cakewalk. Hailed as one of the most talented and dedicated actors in Bollywood, Akshay Kumar has had his fair share of success and failures. While some of his films turned out to be blockbusters, a few of them failed to meet his fans' expectations. But this year, Bollywood's Khilari had a particularly tough ride at the box office with his 3 consecutive flops. There is no doubt that OTT has brought about a massive change, not just in content but also in talent. Gone are the days when audiences preferred 8-pack abs and conventional physical appearances over hardcore acting skills. Audiences no more want to see exotic locations and huge budget sets, but just some exceptional content. While Akshay Kumar scrambled to flood the big screens with back-to-back movies, there were not enough takers. 2022 has not been Akshay's favourite in terms of box office numbers, as his expectations were crushed by Bachchan Pandey's underwhelming performance to begin with. Akshay Kumar's first release of 2022, Bachchan Pandey, was below par at the box office. Also starring Kriti Sanon, Arshad Warsi and Jacqueline Fernandez in lead roles, Bachchan Pandey is an action drama. Filmmakers invested a huge 180 crore rupees in the making but raked in just 73.11 crore rupees. Despite having all the elements of a blockbuster like a great cast, big budget and proper promotions, Bachchan Pandey failed to become a box office success. And here's why. One of the main reasons behind the poor box office performance of Bachchan Pandey was its release date, which clashed with the Kashmir Files and RRR. Bachchan Pandey couldn't stand in front of the grandeur of Rajamouli's RRR and Vivek Agnihotri's Kashmir Files. The action comedy is a remake of the 2014 Tamil film Jigar Thanda, which itself was inspired by the 2006 Korean film A Dirty Carnival. This movie's performance indicates that now movie buffs are interested in watching an original piece instead of a remake. After Bachchan Pandey, Akshay Kumar's movie Samrat Prithviraj turned out to be his second straight failure. The movie was made for an approx rupees 300 crore budget due to the costume, special effects and extravagant sets, but it failed to impress fans and turned out to be a dud at the box office. The film could only earn rupees 90.32 crore at the BO. Apart from Akshay Kumar, the film also starred 2017 Miss World Manushi Chillar, Sonu Sood and Ashutosh Rana. Apparently, the film's failure left producer Aditya Chopra fuming, who reportedly put all the blame on Akshay Kumar. Well, Akshay Kumar, who is known for juggling several projects at a time, has not been able to achieve desired results this year. The movie failed to engage with the audience because of its bad VFX and Akshay's clumsy portrayal of Prithviraj Chauhan. Akshay's dialogue delivery and facial expression fell short of capturing the character's spirit. Akshay Kumar's latest outing, Raksha Bandhan, is yet another movie which faced the audience's wrath much before the film's release. The movie faced a boycott call as the film writer was accused of Hindu-phobic views. The moviegoers also didn't find Akshay sporting his common moustache look very impressive. As Akshay was once again snubbed by the moviegoers, here are the other reasons that could have possibly led to the failure of the movie at the box office. Raksha Bandhan clashed with Amir Khan's Lal Singh Chadda, which amassed rupees 10 to 11 crores on its opening day. Raksha Bandhan, which was made at an approximate budget of over rupees 70 crore, has managed to mint just about rupees 45.83 till date. Needless to say, 2022 is just not Akshay's year, which might prompt our Khilari to rethink his strategy. Well, these flops didn't dismantle Akshay's hope and strength. He is still in the fame game and has multiple movies in the pipeline. The actor is gearing up for the release of Amit Rai's Oh My God 2, Abhishek Sharma's Ram Setu, Raj Mehta's Selfie and Ranjit Tiwari's Untitled Next. Akshay has already finished shooting for a few of these. However, given the series of flops he has seen this year, the Khilari might want to reconsider his no-brainer entertainers.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching News Now Overnight with me, Priya Behel. First up, all the 50 top stories making headlines today, and then we'll get into their details. BJP leader Raja Singh arrested by police for his derogatory remarks against Prophet Muhammad, gets bail and out on release. Suspended by party, also issued a show cause notice giving him 10 days to answer why should he not be expelled. This show cause has a 10-day deadline when Raja Singh has been asked to explain the reasons why he should be retained as a member of the BJP. Reacting to the uproar over remarks made on the Prophet by suspended Telangana BJP MLA Asaduddin Owaisi of AIMIM says BJP is deliberately trying to hurt Muslim sentiments. MNS Chief Raj Thackeray slams Owaisi and supports Nupur Sharma, says Owaisi also makes objectionable remarks on Hindu gods and goddesses. Markazi Chand Committee head Khalid Rashid Firangi Mehli condemns comments made by suspended Telangana MLA, demands action. Muslim cleric Maulana Sufyan Nizami says such statements shame India on international level. Congress MLA Arif Masood demands stringent legal action against Raja. Akhil Bharatiya Hindu Mahasabha, however, comes out in support. Shishir Chaturvedi says he gave a befitting reply to people like Munawwar Farooqi, who had earlier allegedly mocked Hindu gods. Aam Aadmi Party versus Centre explodes. Delhi Lieutenant Governor V.K. Saxena writes to Chief Minister, flags off violations of rules, alleges that Chief Minister is not signing the files before sending them to the LG. Instead, bureaucrats are signing them. Development in Bengal cattle smuggling case. The judge hearing Anubrata Mondal's case claims that there is threat to his life. Former Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa kicks off Savarkar Rathyatra in Siddaramaya's hometown Mysuru today. Former Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy hits out at his rivals Congress and the BJP, accuses them of spoiling law and order situation in the state by taking out yatras. Prohibitory orders kick in from tomorrow in Kodagu that will last till the 27th of August because both Congress and BJP have been planning rallies there. Following prohibitory orders in Kodagu from Wednesday, Congress has decided to postpone their planned Madikeri Chalo rally. Leader of opposition in Karnataka, Siddaramaiah, says that his party does not want to violate any laws and therefore plans have been put on hold. B.S. Yediyurappa also slammed Siddaramaiah, saying that he must understand his responsibilities and not instigate people. Congress plans to embark on Bharat Jodo Yatra from Kanyakumari under the leadership of party leader Rahul Gandhi starting 7th of September. Potholes claim yet another life in Bengaluru. 44-year-old victim Suprit succumbs to his injuries. Relatives of late contractor Santosh Patil submitted a petition against the clean chit that has been issued to Ishwarappa by the SIT in the Special People's Representative Court in Bengaluru. The CEO of Serum Institute of India, Adar Poonawalla, has met the Prime Minister, congratulating him for his remarkable leadership in fight against COVID. Former Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray has expelled two rebel Shiv Sena leaders, Uday Samant and Yashwant Jadhav. Telangana BJP Chief Bandi Sanjay Kumar has been detained in Jangaon district for protesting the arrest of BJP workers in Hyderabad who had attacked MLC Kavita's residence yesterday. BSF have recovered a cache of assault weapons which are suspected to have been smuggled from across the borders. A bomb threat call was received at Lalit Hotel in Mumbai. Unidentified person called the hotel and said that bombs have been placed and demanded 5 crores to defuse them. India has reported 8,586 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours. 48 fatalities have also been reported. Indian cricket team coach Rahul Dravid has tested positive for COVID. This comes days before India's opening campaign in Asia Cup T20 tournament. Hindu groups protested in Hubballi in Karnataka demanding to celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi at Eidgah